Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Vito x DINO podcast. This is episode 56. If it were a New York Giant, it would be Lawrence Taylor, and it would be breaking Joe Theismann's leg. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi everyone, I'm Dean Haspiel.
I said that all with one breath. Can you believe it?
That was great. Maybe what do you know how to sing? Can you
I
sing?
do. You've heard me sing. I've done
That's true.
karaoke around you.
That's true. And actually, did you used to sing in the studio? And maybe that's where the old like
Our sign off?
siren, the sign off sound maybe came from that. I don't know.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, I
Maybe.
know that I got it originally from a skit from the Chappelle Show. Uh, there was a skit called Black Bush, and it was Chappelle pretending to like, what would Bush be like, George W. Bush be like if he were black? And then at the end of the episode, or at the end of the skit, he's like talking about going to, like, he can't be distracted because we're going to Mars. Yes, Mars, bitches. And then he goes, we're talking Red Rocks. And then one of the guys, the guy who plays Ashley Larry, Donnell Rollins, was behind him, and he goes, yay, yay. So that's how the skit ends. So
I,
that's,
all these years, and I never knew the origin of that until
yeah,
just now.
yeah.
That's awesome. I had no idea. All right. By the way, my studio is like a New York apartment right now in that it's hot.
Oh, you're going to
And
say it's
normally,
freezing.
well, as you say, normally what you do is you open the windows, you let all the hot air out,
Right.
and waste energy. But I just was busting out a fan just to cool it down a little bit. So, 56. What was the team player you mentioned?
Lawrence Taylor
Yeah, okay.
from
All
the New
right.
York
What
Giants.
was was Mickey Mantle 56? Do you know? I
I feel like either 55 or 56. I think you might be right.
I think he was in the 50s. Yeah, I don't have an association with that number for anything else, so that's good
Well,
enough, I
I
guess.
do. When I was playing football in high school, I wanted to be 56 because of Lawrence Taylor.
Right.
But they didn't have it in like my size. Like they had it for like the junior high, but not the senior high. So I just turned the six upside down and got 59.
Oh, wait. What do you mean you turned it upside down?
Well, the six, if you turn the six upside down, dude, you know what a 69 is.
No,
I don't have to
I
explain
know
this.
that. No, no, I'm not going there.
You
But I'm
know how
saying
the,
is,
the relationship of the
but
two.
wait, the five stayed a five?
Yeah, the five stayed of five. So it was five, and then instead of six, the six turned upside down to be a nine.
All right. I gotta work that out later on.
Oh,
I'm
we're,
having a hard time.
we're both wrong, by the way.
Oh, well, okay.
Mickey Mantle's number was seven. I forgot about that from Seinfeld.
Seven.
Yeah,
Okay.
George wanted to name his kid Seven after Mickey Mantle. Totally forgot about that. Boy.
Okay, well, hey, listen, we're off the cuff here. We're just speaking our truths, even though we're not speaking the truth, you know?
Yeah, yeah, we're way off.
All right, I have a bunch of little things to talk about, and then we'll go into uh other topics that
Yeah.
you'll bring up. So, oh my God, well, you'll never guess who I met on the train 2 weeks ago. I
Benicio
was
del Toro.
no,
I mean, that was a guess.
I mean, good guess, a guess. So I'm standing on the platform. Actually, me and Whitney Matheson had just seen a play, and I think it was in Manhattan that we got on the train, and it was the F train going to Brooklyn.
Mhm.
And
Back to the
I
studio.
I see someone like just from the side. I have really good. It's bizarre how you could be covering up your face. I could just see your eyes, and I might have seen you in a TV show once, and this has happened, and I'll be like, wait, I know who that person is. I may not know them, but I know who they are, kind of thing. I don't know why. I can't remember names, but I remember gestures and looks, for some reason.
Right.
Anyway, I saw this person from the side. I was like, wait a second, that's not. And then I saw them turn around, and you'd be surprised when I name this person. This person, a lot of people look like this person. Okay, so I'm thinking, I think that's this person. So, and I have a connection to this person. So we get on the
Oh, like a
train.
personal connection?
You'll see where it
Okay.
goes. So I say to Whitney, "That's who. Do you think that's who that is?" And
Mhm.
she said, "Yeah, I think that's who that is." And I go, I have to say something. I have to. Usually, I'm very good about just being forthcoming. If I like someone, I want to shake their hand and say thank you for whatever you brought to my life, kind of thing. I'm
Creating
not
the art
asking for
that
your
you're making.
number to be friends or nothing. Like I like to acknowledge and thank, right? But in this case, this is someone whose life I inadvertently changed.
Oh, okay.
So they sit down with I think is their husband, and actually the husband standing up, or the boyfriend or whoever the partner is, and they're sitting down next to another person. And the other person, I felt hesitant about going over them. It was a two-seater by the doors between the trains type thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want to involve this guy that clearly didn't know them, otherwise the husband would have sat down in the two-seater, right?
So that
So
third person was not in there.
not at all.
Got it.
But we enter Brooklyn now. We're about to hit like I don't know, York Street or something. I think that's where it was. And I just say, fuck it. And I go over to her, to the woman, and I look at her, and the man standing right there. So I didn't want to act like I'm bum rushing or nothing or
Mhm, mhm.
attacking. I was very gentle.
Were
And
were
even
they
though this
still
other person,
seated?
she was seated, he was standing, and then the guy that didn't matter, as it were, was still there. But he was like in his phone. He didn't give a shit.
So nobody's getting up at this point. You're not like
Nobody's getting
stopping
up, and
somebody.
I
Got it.
decided like, who knows when they're leaving? My stop's coming in a few stops,
Right.
and I said, and maybe you'll get it from this. I said, "Excuse me, is your name Hope?" And she goes, "Yes."
Hope
I
Davis,
go, "Hope Davis,"
who is
and I
in
go,
American Splendor.
"Joyce, who played Joyce Brabner?"
Yeah.
And I say, and I say, "Hi, my name is Dean." I introduce my her and I introduce to the man, and I go, "I'm the guy that told Ted Hope that he should make American Splendor." And before I could finish my sentence, she puts out her hand and says, "Thank you. Thank you so much, for that." She acknowledged, as I imagined, that, it changed her life.
Right.
So she had already done some roles before that, obviously, and I think she'd been on the map. But obviously, one of the roles, when you think about her career,
Mhm.
one of the major roles is American Splendor,
Right.
playing Joyce Brabner, right? So we talked briefly about that and how special Harvey Picar was, and Joyce, and the movie is, and all that stuff. And she was grateful, overtly grateful, and the guy was really nice and everything. And I think he's an actor too. I looked him up, and he's been in some movies.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, this is not whatever, it might be public. I live on, my stop is Carroll Street, and they got off at the stop before me at Bergen Street.
Hmm.
So I assume they're local to the neighborhood, kind of
Right.
thing. And before they got, well, as they went to get up and get off, she looked at me again, because then I removed myself, like, over one spot or something. And I was talking to Whitney, and
Hmm.
again, it was this natural conclusion. And then they were getting off. She turns and said, "Thank you so much, Dean." She's like, she'd already remembered my name.
Uh-huh.
And she looked at Whitney and said, "I love your hair." So,
Everybody does.
which made, Whitney happy.
Sure.
And I don't know, it was just like, she's like, I think the only person that I had not met from that shoot or that project. I met Paul Giamatti a few times, and Judah Freelander, and we
That's
interviewed him on our podcast, and a bunch. And I'm sure there's other people that obviously I haven't met necessarily. I mean, I've James Urbaniak, who played Crumb.
Mhm.
We did an interview with. I've met him. So like, she was the one that was missing in a way.
Cool.
So it was awesome to meet her. She was totally great, and I
Can
love
I
her.
ask a weird question? Hopefully it doesn't come off creepy. And I'm
Yeah.
asking this specifically to kind of relate to an anecdote of my own. How did she look in person? Like, because she's a beautiful woman. She's very
She's
radiant, I would say.
beautiful, but she's also normal. Is like, I would say, like, she's not like Marilyn Monroe or nothing like that.
Uh-huh.
Like, she is a genuinely beautiful person, but also so normal at the same
Yeah.
time. And I think that's also what recommends her, probably, as a person, as an actor. I realized, like, I was like, when was the last time I saw her in something? And she was like in Succession recently, I think,
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and other stuff. So she gets work, and she
Of
gets out
course. Yeah.
there, and
She's
she's
a
not
working
just
actress.
a blonde. Like,
I
she's
think she
like,
does a lot of stage stuff too. Like, I
she
think
probably does a lot of, yeah, I presume. And like, no, she had no makeup on. and
Mhm.
she doesn't need makeup, kind
Oh
of a
no,
thing.
that's what I
And
mean. Yeah.
makeup is not like she's not a glam person, but yeah, no, she looked great and help. And I think she's like in her 60s, early 60s, I
I would
believe.
say either late 50s or early 60s. Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
probably
yeah.
around
So
closer to your age than mine, let's say.
right. I mean, sometimes you'll meet someone who, listen, how many people have done a role 20 years ago, and that's the picture you see. And when they meet them now, they're like, or
Yeah.
even at these comic conventions where like, they're not really comic conventions. They're there to, bring out old fogies from the, when you were a kid and you like
Julie
that,
Newmar, for example.
or Julie Newmar who's like 90 something or
Right.
whatever.
And the thing about Julie Newmar is I remember once I walked by her on Madison Avenue and it was like it was such a weird this was like in the late 90s, maybe even right before it was before I moved to Seattle, so it would have been 98, 97. And so she's like maybe in her 70s at that point. So I'm walking by her and like we do one of those. And as I see her coming, I'm like, that woman looks just like Julie Newmar. And then I got to like, I swear, like right here. And I was like, that's Julie Newmar. And I was gonna turn around and say something, and I was like, she's going into Neiman Marcus or whatever. Just let her go.
I
Like,
thought you said you were gonna like see her, turn around, run back 20 feet, and then start walking again toward her.
I would, if I should have, I would have done that if I had like
I
the
told you that story
wherewithal.
that she was my first kiss. I told you that story, right?
Julie Newmar?
You didn't know that?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't know that.
So there's the kiss you get from your parents
Right.
or a sibling or a family member, like, oh, mwah. And then you would think the next kiss would be like you start dating, right? Kind of a
Hmm.
thing, right? Or maybe I don't know if you consider like a dog licking your mouth or a cat or
No,
whatever.
no, no.
But when I was a baby, I think my godmother, Shelley Winters, invited my parents and me, and I believe my brother was alive at the time, but I might be maybe not yet. I don't know. But I was a baby.
Hmm.
And they saw a play or something that Julie Newmar was in, and at the end of the play, Shelley introduced my parents and I guess me to Julie Newmar, and I was told this, I don't remember this, I'm a baby, but that she kissed me on the cheek. So I always say how Julie Newmar was my first kiss.
Wild that your parents brought a baby to a play.
Oh
Like,
yeah, right.
old. Like, how dare you?
Back when you
People
could smoke on airplanes.
people get
No.
stabbed in movie theaters for
Oh
bringing
yeah.
babies. Like, not
Oh
even
yeah.
babies, but kids to movie theaters.
My parents said that it was odd how good a baby I was. And when I say good, I mean I didn't cry during movies and plays or
Hmm.
whatever or
I
something.
think
So
either you told me that or I heard your mom say it somewhere. Like
I
like
think my mom has said that. Yeah.
like in a
Like
in an interview or like in print or something like. But I remember reading that about you or something.
I didn't get into temper tantrums until I was an adult.
Until you falling off two-story buildings.
Oh God. All right. So then a few other things I want to run through because again, we put these out on Mondays and some people actually hear this, during a certain time frame. So I had contributed a 6-page story that I illustrated by a comic student named Brandon White. And I want to say it was like 15 or 20 years ago that I drew this. It was during when the guy who, and it's funny, your handle, your nickname is Incognito,
Mhm.
where Incognito was a Vertigo graphic novel
I remember
written
that.
by Matt Johnson. And I think Warren Pleece drew it. I don't remember. Um, anyway, he was teaching at SCAD, some comics class, and I think one of the courses was basically writing a script that then SCAD had a budget to get professional cartoonists to illustrate said script, so that you'd have that experience and that kind of collaboration. So I drew this 6-page story that's kind of gloomy and doom. Like it's a sad story about a father and a daughter. And at the end of it, it's called Snow Angel. And at the end of it, she basically dies from smoking crack.
Cool.
So it's great, great fun. But I had this, and it's for this Kickstarter, which is a comics anthology called Orphan Works. And Orphan Works, by the title alone, is what it means. Like stuff that like didn't make it, or maybe had a low print run, or was like an exercise or whatever by many different cartoonists, including like people like Trevor Von Eden. So it's on Kickstarter. I think there are 4 or 5 more days. I don't remember. Bill Anderson is the guy that's curating and editing the book. and it's I think over 200 pages. And if you look up Orphan Works on Kickstarter, I have a contribution in there, but so do many other great cartoonists. That's worthwhile getting. I'm going to be going, and I'll probably mention this again next week. I'm going to be a guest at Comics. Sorry,
Original
at
Art Expo.
Original Arts Expo, but they're in association with Comics Art Fans and
Yes.
IC3, and they're going to be debuting the Jack and Roz Kirby Awards that I was a part of the jury this year. I also drew an absolute Batman Last Laugh uh, piece of art that you can bid on. That's part of this whole thing. That's online, or you can find it in some of the links that I've been putting up online. About a week and a half ago, there's this annual affair called Visual Aids, where they get like over 1,500 artists to draw a piece of original art on like a postcard size 4x6 postcard for $100. And I drew an AI Joe that luckily, sold to benefit, to benefit AIDS, and so did Jen. And in the past, Whitney has done that, and other artists I know, which was a good cause, Visual Aids. Speaking of AI Joe, I think the third issue of Aerotech is coming out, where I did a AI Joe backup feature. It's 2 pages per issue. It would be 10 pages total. It's a 5-issue miniseries, and that's out from SHP Comics. And then I have two other notes here that we can get into after. You might want to share a couple things or have some
I
thoughts.
do want to make a note that OAX, the Original Arts Expo, is in Orlando,
Yes.
I believe, from February 20th to the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be there all
Mm-hmm.
3 days?
All right, so I'm going to be there. I'm going to be landing the 20th, like that afternoon. I think it actually starts at 3 or 4 o'clock, so I might get there in time for the opening, or just kind of hang out and kind of party. I'm only bringing some comics and some blank paper and pens in case I do some commissions, plus the Batman drawing I did. I don't really have a lot of commissions. We've talked about this, how it's hard for me to sell my original art. I know a lot of people are selling their original art, and if you look at the guest list, I don't hold a candle to these people. Like, these people are amazing. Like, I should just be walking around serving them water, incredible artists. And then I'm going to visit my mom for 4 days in Flagler Beach. And then when I fly back that Thursday, I'm literally going to be like coming home and like going to sleep and waking up and driving to another show,
Long
the
Island, right?
Long Island Convention of Horror, run by Patrick J. Kennedy. And I'll be there for 2 or 3 days, March 27th to, sorry, February 27th to March 1st. And I believe I will be signing print posters, exclusive posters of Mr. Melvin, the Toxic Avenger
Oh, yeah,
poster
yeah.
art I did with Lloyd Kaufman, the creator and director of Toxic Avenger.
Right.
So that should be fun. And I'm trying to think of anything else. Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of stuff happening coming up soon, and then hopefully there'll be a lull again. Like, I think the next conventions will be the Kingston one in April, the same weekend as Bix, the St. Mark's Comics Brooklyn Independent Comic Show that St. Mark's Comics puts on. So I think March will be a little more free to actually be wrapping up and finishing Antimatter #1, which I did the final touches on the line art for COVID Cop Insurrection. And now I'm about to draw the last 4 pages, which is a 4-page story featuring Billy Dogma, Jane Legit, and Chessface in a story called Tough Crowd.
Are you still taking late pledges on that, or is that
On
over?
Antimatter, I'm taking late pledges, but I'm gonna close it soon,
Yeah.
because what I need to do next is the annoying getting everyone's addresses and whatnot, and making sure they get the email and open the email and make sure that their address is right and all that stuff. So and then before we get into what's going on this month and the celebration this month, do you have any other bits before I throw in one more piece?
I thought I did, but I don't remember. Let me just look at my notes. Oh, yeah. The Kickstarter for American Yakuza is going. It is funded. So thank you very much if you've already pledged to it. This is a Zion Studios production by Charlie McKelvey. Oh boy, what are their names? Javon Stokes. Crap, I
The
can't.
artists?
Yeah,
the
yeah. I'm
artist.
trying to remember everybody's name. I did editing on it, so like that's why
Right,
I'm involved
right.
in doing it. But it's already reached its funding goal, so everything's now going to be gravy. It's going to be frosting, So like if you haven't backed it, check it out. It's not your typical superhero comic stuff that Charlie and I usually do. It's basically about an American mixed martial arts fighter who finds out that he has inherited a Yakuza uh, uh, not ownership, but membership, and how they treat a gaijin over it. So it's very
It
interesting.
looks great. It looks like a lot of
Oh, it's
fun.
beautiful. Like it's absolutely
So
wonderful looking. I wish I'm going to try to get their names now just so I don't screw it up. But I remember, seeing this when it first came across Charlie's desk. Like he was like, "Hey, what do you think of this? I want to do something." Like he had come up with a concept drawing of the one character, and he kind of it's weird because Charlie doesn't write it, but it was his concept.
hmm
And he just kind of put it together in terms of like a story Bible, and
right.
he found two creators, I think at I don't think it was at Baltimore. It might have been at Tidewater or one of the other Virginia shows that he displays. Not displays. What am I thinking of? Um, what's the word? Like he shows up at basically.
Yeah,
Uh,
let me ask you a question because, like, is this how you guys connected in a way? Is your sensibility of creating a character, without a story yet? Like, it sounds like you and Charlie have invented initially a whole slew of characters that then you then get people to produce.
no, I mean it's funny because I'm crazy enough to think that I can still do all of the stuff that I want to do. But Charlie, I think, has come to the notion that he can't do everything. So that's why he kind of shops everything out. That's how I got Milestone. I don't, I don't want to say I didn't audition for it, but I didn't, lobby for it or anything. He was just like, "Do you mind writing this?" Or,
Well, let me ask you, are you a co-creator now because you've written the
yeah,
first
yeah.
issue?
I'm a co-creator of Milestone.
So
God,
he's a co-creator, you're and the artist, right?
Mhm.
So it's three people basically
Yeah, that
involved.
would be Ariel Medell.
All right. Okay. I guess in a way, I'm like a co-creator of the Purple Heart for
Yeah,
obvious
yeah,
reasons.
absolutely.
Even though you did the bulk of the writing, like all of the writing, I think we just had editing sessions or
Well,
something, right?
that
Like,
and like when we were coming up with the story, I think we told it on here before, but I think when we were coming up with the story, um, it was basically the three of us with this kind of
you mean Seth Kushner?
yeah, you, Seth, and I at a
Right.
subway, and we were
Right.
talking about like Jim Thompson and stuff. And then
Right.
once the flags went up on the Brooklyn Bridge, we kind of started really putting together the idea of New Brooklyn, and
Well,
then
yeah, I remember I came to you guys and I was like, guys, I think I have a concept here. Like,
right,
I was reacting to those white flags, and I thought that Brooklyn had given up, like literally
yeah, yeah, yeah.
given up. I want to mention, and I think I sent you something. I didn't follow through with you, but I did follow through with the author. Here we go. So there's a book out, a self-published book, I believe, called Broken Land Dreams by David Forbes. And in the book, he reached out to me. I would never have known this. And you can get it on Amazon. In the book, let me return to our video. Um, we are mentioned. We are characters
Oh yeah,
in the
yeah,
book.
yeah. Yes.
You're a character for writing the Purple Heart
Hmm.
with Ricardo Venancio, Seth Kushner, and Jason Gungor, and why am I blanking on the original artist on the Brooklyn Nine? Jesus Christ,
Oh,
I feel
Seamus Bial.
Seamus Bial, right? Is mentioned, and then I'm mentioned for Red Hook, and we're written in there because I think he has other characters or students or young kids that are into these comics that are our comics,
Yeah.
and I think we like meet them briefly in there. So like the real personas of us are in this book without our permission, but okay.
Yeah.
But at least he shared it, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I mean, it's weird to be Dean Haspiel in someone else's book that I've never met. It's almost like, I guess, if you wrote a book and you met Stephen King, imagine meeting Stephen, not that we're Stephen King, but someone who is a public figure. I
Right.
guess we're kind of public figures now, technically.
I mean, yeah, I guess, but I mean, you could also make the argument of, well, what are you basing the character on? Like, is he basing it on seeing this podcast and like, seeing what our, you know what I mean? Or is it just
Right.
based on interviews that we did around the time of New Brooklyn coming out, or
Well, he had
whatever?
mentioned that there were similar ideas, I think, about Brooklyn or whatever in his book,
Hmm.
like magical realism type stuff, which I have not read. And I think he probably searched any other kind of magical realism in Brooklyn and came across our comics on Webtoon.
Ah, that
So
makes sense.
that's how he was able to find out and then incorporated us into his work and then reached out after it was published, which is interesting. But give a cripple crab a crutch, right? Like, everyone's trying to make ends meet, and it wasn't offensive or anything. And I can't vouch for the actual quality of the book yet until I read it, but hey, it can't be that awful, or maybe it's amazing, who knows?
Hopefully, I don't murder somebody like by accident. Hopefully, if I'm murdering, it's like with intent,
Yes,
because
yes.
that's
You mean
more my character.
if you were to write that,
Right.
characterize it that way. That's right. That's right.
Before
Speaking of,
before we move on, I want to make sure I got the names right. Anthony Stokes and Chris Moses are the writers of American Yakuza, and Damiano Restivo is the artist. So I just want
got
to
it.
that's
Excellent.
uh,
So you
yeah.
were talking about intent and murder and all that.
Yeah.
So I have to talk around this a little bit just because uh, not about protecting the innocent, but respecting a situation that happened here. So about 2 or 3 nights ago, I want to say 3 nights now, maybe two. I was sitting here inking the last page of COVID Cop Insurrection, and I was debating going to a comedy thing that Whitney and I gotten tickets for, and I was going to meet her at Union Hall. And David Cross was like headlining this
Hmm.
kind of variety show kind of thing. And I have curated and hosted a couple of events there as well. It's a nice little room.
This isn't the
Uh,
Nat Towson weekly thing, right?
that he was there at this thing, and it's a monthly. It's called like Frankenstein's Baby or something.
Okay.
Okay, so he was at the last one, and they were like, "Oh, that was fun. We could, it's $15. We're in New York City. Go see things. So
$15 is cheap, like cheap,
exactly.
good entertainment.
But it was also freezing. I was in a groove. I was like, you know what? Let me. I'll. I think I'm gonna skip this. But it was also. I was here late enough to start hearing screaming and fighting. Uh, I I couldn't tell it was outside my studio door, but it was definitely down the hall. But it was literally on the other side of the building. That's how loud and frantic it was, right?
Hmm.
So later on, I found out that a lot of people who heard the screaming and fighting just locked their doors because they were afraid. And I guess that's the smart thing to do. Okay. For
Yeah.
me, I walked out the door and walked toward it. So I'm following this yelling and screaming, and it's intense. And I walk around the corner of this gallery and down another hall, and this hall leads down to two other people, artist studios. Bill Roundy,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah. I know,
cartoonist
Bill.
with the blue fingernails and
Yeah.
whatnot. He's standing in the hall, and to the side, I can't see. It's like there's another hallway, so there's like a wall, and I can't see, but I see him standing, and he is being threatened basically, and he's standing there, and I hear screaming, and then finally he says, like, "Get back!" They're screaming, "Get back! Get back!" And he's just standing there, not doing anything. And he says, meaning not being violent or anything. He's just standing there in front of his art studio,
Hmm.
uh, and he goes, "Well, if you took the knife away from your neck," and I'm like, "What is happening right now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And I decided to kind of stop, not get go enough because there was like this intense energy happening and screaming, and
From around
now
the
I hear
corner.
around a corner. Now I hear about a knife, and now I'm afraid for Bill
Hmm.
because I feel like they're going to lunge at Bill. So I said, "Bill, come over here right now." And he just took the direction, like he turned around and he came toward me, right? So I was glad I was able to pull him out of that, right? Like this tractor beam of rage, right?
Right.
And then I heard another person yelling. And I'm like, there's two people around because I can't see what's around the corner,
Hmm.
right? So I come back, I pull him in, and we're going down the hall, and I'm like, oh my God, what are we supposed to do here? Like, do we call 911? Like, who is over there? I don't know. I know most everybody that's in the studio,
Right.
but I don't recognize these voices, and I haven't seen who they are. He didn't know who they were either. So it's like suddenly there's like, did people just sneak up into the third floor, which you need a key for and a code? You know, what's
Yeah,
going on, kind
I've
of
been
thing.
there. It's like number one, it's a maze.
It's
Number
a
one,
maze. Right,
like the way it's
right.
laid out. Number two, it's pretty secure, in terms of
Yeah.
the amount
So
of hoops you have to jump through to get through.
So I had my glasses, these ones I'm wearing, they're like $5 readers, and they were tucked in my shirt, like, like that, whatever. And I realized, oh shit, if I go back, I might get attacked, and I don't want anybody to break my glasses.
God, man, you think just like me. Like especially when I have my glasses and they're hanging here, I'm like, oh my God, don't pick up anything heavy.
Or don't hug me hard.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
people go to hug you, and I'm like,
yeah.
anyway, so I go to my room to put my glasses down. Then I go back, and as I go back to that hallway, there people are starting to emerge a little bit, and they're hearing all the scuffle. I turn the hall back, where I first saw them, and suddenly I see two people slam to the floor. A phone goes spinning and hits the wall, cracks. It's cracked to pieces, and a knife goes spinning toward my foot.
Oh,
And I look at one of the dudes, and he has a cut under his eye, and he's bleeding all over his face here and there, and his blood, like I. So, and he's holding on to, I'll just say, another person. I don't want to give too much information away, but he's holding on to someone else. I'll get to that person in a minute, who's very distressed and freaking out. Okay, clearly that's the one who's yelling and screaming. This
possibly the one that was
person,
holding the knife.
this person knows them well enough. Let's just say is a relative of. I don't want to get too much information.
You
And
know,
so I get the knife. I hand it to Bill. I say, Bill, get rid of this. Make this go far away, kind of a thing. He takes it. I think he handed it to someone else that then put it in their room. Now we have a swap area, what's called a swap area of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
like wood or garbage or cardboard or whatever. And I'm like, I don't have a weapon. If I'm going to go back into this, I need to arm myself. So I go and I find like a piece of wood, and I walk back over and I decide to put on my phone to try to record what's happening a little bit. So I walk down the hall. They're on the ground, scuffling and screaming. And I realized, fuck, I looked antagonistic holding this big stick now,
Right.
just to maybe protect myself. So I walk over them, and I put the stick down at another door, down another hall, and I come back and I'm videotaping the whole time. And suddenly this person who's been screaming and yelling and, wants to die starts talking about getting first aid, and could I administer first aid to this person that's holding them down and bleeding all over their face.
He probably got hit in
So
the back like that, like with a headbutt or
no,
something.
but no, he had a knife wound, like under his eye.
Right,
And
but I mean, the way you
oh,
said,
and then other stuff. Yeah, and
yeah,
in fact, I did see him today, and it's black and blue all over his
right.
face, and
Yeah,
cuts and
like
whatnot.
you'd have to get like an impact on your nose to get something like that. And like
Sure.
what you were saying,
So it was interesting how I was like, wait, the personality is shifting like dramatically, right?
hmm,
And then I noticed who it was. And I have seen this person. I've not seen the other person that's restraining them, but I have seen the person being restrained. And they're pretty volatile. I have a studio windows that go out on the deck.
yeah,
And so I'll see this person walking back and forth, kind of like yelling on a phone, or I don't know what's going on. Plus, again, this might help identify who they are, and I don't mean to do this, but they were also prominently featured in a video during some of the Minnesota protests where something bad happened to them. So I think they were very distressed on many levels, and other
sure.
information I happen to know that also, and I'll tell you later,
Yeah, yeah. I don't
the
know.
other information.
I don't have a clue.
But so
But
this person's freaking out, and then I'm trying to help them, and then Mindy, Mindy, Indy
yeah, yeah.
Mindy, she comes out and she helps me like open up get a first aid box, and
Hmm.
getting out some stuff, and while the guy is holding down and has the legs wrapped around all this stuff, I'm like dabbing their face with their cuts and stuff. Like it's surreal at this
Yeah.
point, like. And finally we're like, call the cops. Finally 15 cops show up,
Wow.
EMS, and then they're able to, like, he lets go of the person that's in distress, and they handcuff, and then suddenly like a script comes out of this person's voice, like, saying how they have PTSD. They saw the Preddy murder.
Right.
They have survivor's guilt and all the things one might say to explain the behavior, as it were, you know?
Right.
And again, there's some details I'm leaving out that are also important, but it was so crazy and like dealing with knives and blood and like, and I guess where I'm leading to is, and there's more to the story, but where I'm leading to is normally when I kept a blog on LiveJournal,
Yeah.
these were the kind of things I'd write all the time. And we
Um,
talk about the creative process. This would have become like an opposable thumb story or a beef with tomato type story,
I
streetwise.
clearly remember you posting on LiveJournal around, I want to say a New Year's or I know it was in the winter, maybe not Christmas, but maybe like between Christmas and New Year's, about you seeing somebody getting jumped and somebody said, "What are you looking at?" And you said, "A fight." And the thing is, whenever I read it, or whenever I read it, but whenever I think about it, um, the way you answer a fight can be taken two ways. Number one, you're clearly observing a fight happening. And number two, what are you looking at? I'm looking at fighting. Like I'm looking at getting into a fight, like so it's like,
Yeah, the two ways to interpret it is like the basic, I've just repeated what's obvious,
right.
or depending on how you say it, you're looking for a fight, right?
Yeah,
I
and that's
swear I did not say it in the I'm looking for a fight, you
that's
know?
the best thing about that story is I can't I can't parse it because I wasn't there. And
Right.
knowing you, you're just like, because like when I think about the first option, of just like being completely observational, you're just like dumbfounded by what you're seeing, like
Yeah.
a fight. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but then knowing Dean the way I know Dean, I see it as I'm looking at a fight. What are you looking at? Like
What are you
that kind of
looking
thing.
at?
So it's hard to, like I said, it's hard to parse. I know the answer, but like it's hard to parse in my brain sometimes when I think about it. So yeah,
That led to me getting my nose broken, by the
I
way, and
remember.
had to go to the hospital. And twice they had to move it. I remember the first time it was like a young nurse put two metal prongs in my nose, like a
Oh,
walrus or something. And then like I screamed as loud as you can as she tried to maneuver into the right spot. And then she says to me, I have to do it again.
yeah,
I'm like, come on, man.
re-break it and stuff.
So but that's my author photo in The Quitter is
Yeah, that's
my
right.
broken nose with black eyes and everything and a bandage and whatnot. So I remember
The
how pissed off my mom was. She was like, why that picture? Why?
the thing about this story that you're telling is because it's an artist space. Um, I don't know why no one, like we live in a society. Oh, did I just say that phrase? Where it's so easy to just turn a blind eye to things. You know what I mean? But because you're in an artist space, I don't know why no one would have thought, oh, maybe somebody's staging a play. Do you know what I mean? Now, granted, the volume and the level of intensity of the scream, I don't have the privilege of saying I heard it. And so I think you can tell sometimes when you hear one from the other if it's legit or if it's like a performance. So maybe that's, like it just,
It's funny. You say the word performance, and I've been using, and I said the word script.
mm,
And again, I think that's just inherent to this person who, the one in distress that was having the mental health breakdown. Uh, and is evidenced by a video that I felt when I first saw it. I understood the pain of what happened, but I also felt it was a little performative.
mm,
And in what they do, I feel is a little performative. Again, I don't want to like get in any trouble here, but that's my opinion. And also, I went to help this person, and I don't
right,
know this person.
right.
And I helped two people I don't know. So, you know, do I have opinions and feelings about what happened? Sure. Do I understand everything that happened? Not at all. And again, there were other things I've left out so that I don't have to completely identify for those who might want to play the game of, who this could have been. But like at the end of the day, when you say society and I'll say community and the art community of over 100 rooms, you know, if you and I, if you had a studio down the hall, Vito, a year or two, and you came to the barbecues and you were part of the gallery shows or whatever,
Mm,
and you're part of the community, and suddenly you and I get into a fight and it's fisticuffs or something, people could be like, that's fucked up, try to make up, guys, you were friends, what the hell happened, blah blah blah, whatever, right? And I would give a lot of latitude toward that and be like, yeah, but and then I wouldn't expect you to get kicked out or anything. I don't think that we present as a danger in that way. But
Right.
when someone shows up and they're not a part of this stuff necessarily, and even if they're a sweet person in general, when you start to see volatile behavior a lot of the time, and then stuff like this happens, it does present a sense of danger because the word
Yeah.
unhinged comes to mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need help. The family member knew that they needed help,
Yeah.
okay, and they need to be quote locked up and put into a space where they can be helped. Now, what kind of help do you get? Is it good? Is it bad? I don't know. Like that's a whole other big question, like mental health crisis. We have a mayor, Mamdani, who is promoting more mental health officers, or what do you want to call it, advocates, or people who go out into the wild of the streets. And there are people who are living. 17 people died during this snowstorm so far. Okay, because they didn't want help.
Right.
Now it's below. It's so terrible outside, and yet where's your mental health that you need to stay outside?
Right.
Like, so maybe there is some. That's another question. Do you force people to live? Like,
Oh, when I was up there, we were driving to Staten Island, and I pointed out to you an area where, during Hurricane Sandy, a mother and her two kids were knocking on doors trying to get out of the storm, and they ended up being washed away and died. And nobody would let them in. And it's a very, I don't know that it's entirely similar to the situation that you just went through, but it's not. We're talking about giving help and like Mamdani, offering these services, and the problem is sometimes you can't change people. You might be able to.
oh yeah, you can't. It's like just like you can't. Like, you probably can't change you. You probably can't change me. I'm opening to hearing ideas. In fact, I just had a funny exchange in the hallway, which I want to get to in a second.
Mm.
But this person, the irony is, this person that was distressed was possibly trying to commit suicide 3 hours before they had been in a bar fight, and cops had showed up to that, and they disappeared. And this other person came to try to find them here because they were that distressed. So there was
Wow.
a whole night of it, kind of a thing,
Yeah.
right? And then the irony is that the person that was trying to kill themselves was physically unscathed, while the other person has holes in their face.
Right.
And I got kicked a couple of times, but I don't take that personally. Like, that was someone thrashing. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
Like, that wasn't about me. That was me getting in the way of trying to help them.
Yeah,
So
of all things.
yeah, right. And I just think that, like, in terms of mental health, like, yes, we do need to be wary of that. But also, trust me, the minute someone is being violent and screaming, all the dynamics in the room change. And
Yeah.
a lot of people freeze, people get scared, they want to huddle. Some people go toward the danger. I don't think I would like to think in my heart of hearts that, because of all the superhero comics we write and draw and read and the movies and everything, that I'd be a guy that would go forward. I In my dreams, I'm afraid. And yet sometimes I do go toward it. And maybe that is a stupid thing to do, like, because now you're involved. Now you could be part of the problem too,
Yeah.
So
We're going to talk
I
about superheroes in a little bit too.
yeah, yeah. Well, speaking of, and this will set it up a little bit. I literally was running to the bathroom before starting this talk with you, and this Spanish guy down the hall who's really cool, who like backed a couple of my Kickstarters, was like, "Hey, I want to talk to you. I want to have a beer with you. I have an idea about superheroes and what superheroes are meant to be, and what they're supposed to be." And I said, "Is this something you want to write and draw?" He goes, "No, no, no. I want to give you the idea." I was like, "Okay, number one, I appreciate that you want to talk to me about this, but I'm already wrestling with this in my own comics. In fact, I just thought of something that I want to share with you. But I was like, I'm already wrestling with this with the Red Hook on a monthly basis in a newspaper, and then in my own work, and the idea of heroes and how it's a reluctant hero." And I said, "But you know what? I want to hear what you have to say."
Yeah.
Because you could influence me, or maybe we'll talk about it and you might want to do something about it in your art. Like, I don't want to be shut it down. Like, some people will come toward me and get, I have a 5-issue miniseries I'd love you to draw, and here's my idea. And I'm like, that's really cool. But unless you're on the list of writers that I would like to scratch off my bucket list, kind of a thing, I have these stories that I want to do,
Right.
and I'm trying to write what I draw kind of thing. And then just to wrap it up, and then we'll get into this second part, is I kind of came up with, and this is a spoiler, but maybe not. I think I know how I would end the Red Hook series.
Oh, interesting. That's
So
yeah, I know how Stray ends. So
you know how Australians, but so you know how he started off as a thief, right?
yeah, yeah.
And he's not a bad guy, but he's a bad guy, right? And he's forced to become a superhero in the first arc of that story, right? And then later on, as the series progresses, he starts to own being a hero and what
Mhm.
that means, right? Now, in my comic book script, the newspaper strip I've been doing, I feel like he's kind of wavering back and forth of like, what does it mean or what's the responsibility, which is something we will discuss tonight, right? Of being a hero. And I feel like I have a story about guns that I want to do with the Red Hook and the mom. I have this story that I call Son of a Bitch, which is about
Mhm.
him and his mom. And it's about the gunshot heard around the world. And that's all I'll say. And I feel like that's a story I gotta do before I get to this quote ending. But I realize, and it's not necessarily an ending, but it's a veer. And I realize he returns back to thievery.
Hmm.
He goes back to being a bad guy who's good. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like partially because of the way the world is working right now, how the hell are we supposed to live this way? You
Right.
know, corporations are crumbling. They just fired 300 journalists from the Washington Post. What?
Are we going to get into this now, or should we get into the other thing first and then get back to it? Because I mean,
Well,
I
we can
think
get if this is naturally going in this one direction, we can get the other thing. We have a whole
yeah,
month
let's
to
do
do
it now.
the other thing.
Um, so I was asking Dean. Oh, were you finished with the Red Hook thing? Because I didn't
No,
want.
no, this could be part of the conversation.
So I was asking Dean earlier. I like it just came up to me. The I don't want to dance around it, so I'll just say it. With the whole Epstein file release and the whole like the thing that I saw a lot of today online was it's amazing that all this information is coming out, yet nothing's going to be done about it. And then I saw that France, the UK, and a bunch of other countries are going to start prosecuting folks that are implicated or being mentioned, like and just start going through the idea of litigating it. And I was just like, I don't know where I was. I was somewhere in the bedroom, I think, and I was just like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what is, and I don't mean like as a writer. I just mean an American. What am I supposed to do? And then I think about like um, how I'm not a big, I don't listen to his music, but I'm so excited for Sunday to see Bad Bunny, do the Super Bowl halftime show because fuck everybody else, like I
You
like
see the Grammys?
yes, I saw his acceptance speech and I literally cried. Like
There were like 2 or 3 times he came up, and he was great. He
yeah,
was great.
yeah, and again, I don't listen to his music. I've not turned it off whenever I've heard it, so I don't have anything against it. It's just not the music that I listen to. By the way, I'm so red, like in this area. Why, God? And if you watch the show, like you see that I'm always touching my face and my ears, and it's just like, "Ugh," like it's like one of my ADHD ticks or something. I don't know. So and just like seeing how people are just like, he's not American, and it's like you have no idea what an American is, and then like all these things that are just like if you look at my timeline on Facebook, you'll just see me in between sharing the podcast and sharing Kickstarters and stuff. You'll see me like basically bitching about Trump, and it's just I just I was walking and I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like, what am I meant to do in this situation? And then I thought, well, what is Stray to do in this situation? Like, what is a superhero response to this? And I was just like, I kind of want to talk about this with Dean. So I kind of posed the question, like, how would superheroes solve the state of the world slash country that we're in right now? Whether it be, take your pick, ICE, take your pick, Trump, Epstein, whatever the issues are, like, how would they Because you think about it, superheroes are usually, I wouldn't say agents of the state, but some of them are, but they are usually responsible to the authorities, because otherwise they're vigilantes like the Punisher that don't adhere to that don't adhere to the law, but do things that are lawful. Um, and it's just excuse me, it's a tough question to wrestle with. The thing that I was thinking about was who in my gallery of heroes would be able to follow the money? Like
Are you
who,
talking about the ones you created?
yeah, like Golden Guard.
Well, all right, but before we get to our heroes, I thought it'd be like the first thing when you posed the question to me, the first thing I thought about was Captain America.
Yeah,
Like what, Captain America has to, as a the guy who has a shield that's, a version of the American flag. His suit is the American a version of the American flag. He's supposed to is he supposed to uplift a certain ideal of what America is? I
I mean
think
they,
that's the question, right?
I mean they did
So
the story already with Steve Englehart doing it, and the now recently deceased Sal Buscema, the Secret Empire story. It's not exactly this type of, like these issues, but it's close. So
no, I mean,
this,
and they've done this throughout the years. J.M. DeMatteis, I feel, and at some point, Captain America is that is Steve Rogers becomes
right,
where he's not Captain America. So they've wrestled with this idea constantly. What and when 9/11 happened, and I think it was Reber, what's his name, John
John A.
Reber,
Reaver, yeah, and John
and
Cassidy,
and John Cassidy did their Captain America run where they questioned, what is America? So with Captain America, it begs the question, what is America? What does America mean to Steve Rogers? And
right?
then what is his responsibility as a hero who, again, the other question is, and I think they did this in the movies and they've probably done it in the comics, but like the Avengers, who are they beholden to? Tony Stark? To
Right.
the President of the United States? Who? Plus, really, you're going to tell superheroes like the Hulk what to do? Like, are you kidding me? Like, you shoot some nuclear missiles at him. Go ahead. He'll just get bigger and stronger and madder, right? Like,
Right.
so you can't fuck with the Avengers. You could probably negotiate with the Fantastic Four, but they might just get into the negative zone or go out in outer space and say fuck Earth,
Right.
like, and then and yet they're the only ones ever defeated Galactus. But and then there's the Defenders, and we're doing Marvel right now. I mean, obviously there's Justice League, there's X-Men, and X-Men are characters that feel scorned to the point where, and I've never read this story, but they moved to another island. They skedaddled. Like so, like heroes have always Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, menace to society, right? So what are they supposed to do? And I think the other thing I mentioned when you brought this up was not only like let's talk about Captain America, for instance, but when they did do the 9/11 Spider-Man comic and all the heroes and some of the villains showed up to the devastation of the World Trade Centers, right?
Hmm.
And there's Doctor Doom crying. Okay. Now, I don't even know how I feel about that. On the one hand, I'm like, oh, Doctor Doom's crying? Like, yeah, he has a heart. I guess, he's not such a bad guy. I don't think he wanted the World Trade Center to collapse, but he's also tried to rule the world.
Mhm.
So how does that work? Like,
Yeah.
so it's weird because how do you put superheroes in the real world and deal with an Epstein file?
And the other thing too is like you just said it. How do you put superheroes in the real world? How many times have we seen like a Kickstarter or an upstart company or like a new self-publishing concern come up with, well, these are superheroes that are tackling real issues in the real world. And it's like you don't though. Like you just, like to your credit, and I mean this to the I'm talking to is the people that are trying to do this. To their credit, they're trying to answer the question through their own lens by their own voice. So how do we answer that though in our own voice when we're more or less powerless? Do you know what I mean? Like
You're talking about us as creators. How do we answer that?
as human beings, even like we're
I mean,
powerless.
some people created the Punisher for smaller crimes, for
Yeah,
petty crimes, for
Jerry Conway and oh God, Gil Kane.
John. Well, Dave Cockrum, I think designed. Well, I don't know. John Romita. I think John Romita designed the costume, and I don't remember who the artist was
Hmm.
that might have
Maybe
drawn
Ross
it.
Andrew.
Maybe right, but the point is we have like characters that use guns. Like, I remember when Wolverine became very popular, but it irked me that this guy slices and dices and mutilates and kills people.
Hmm.
Okay. Yeah, Wolverine's cool and fun, and like the sidekick character who like it kind of like you ever see Road Warrior, and there was a character named Wes, and Wes was chained to this big giant truck,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
would
yeah.
unleash him, and he
Hmm.
would go and kick all these people's ass and all this stuff, right? Like that was Wes, right? I always
Hmm.
thought that's how I would have written Wolverine, like just always on a collar, being ready to jump like a pit bull or something,
Right, right,
like but of course he's a human being and has feelings anyway. But they're the people who, like, when you're wearing a flag on your body, who are you representing? What
right.
part of America? That there's that Civil War question. What kind of American are you?
I should have brought this up when we were talking to Mark Wade, when he was doing that run on Captain America. I was trying to, I said that I had written a letter because Cap lost his shield, and I had written a letter, because it moved me, like it truly did move me. And then I think a couple of issues later, or maybe even a couple of months later, I was drafting an email to Marvel for the letters column, and it was basically I was pitching an idea of Captain America, trying to, this is the dumbest idea ever, trying to uh, get everybody registered to vote, all the Avengers registered to vote. And it was basically played for laughs, but kind of serious, because like, how do you get Thor to vote? Like, how do you get Thor registered to vote? Like,
Right.
what party does he subscribe to, and
It's almost like a
all that
Mad
stuff.
Magazine
Yeah,
scenario.
totally,
Like,
totally.
you
And
know,
the last part of it was Cap. It's now like 7 o'clock, right before the polls close in New York, so about 8 o'clock actually. And he goes to do his vote, and like you just see the curtain shut. We don't find out who Cap votes for, but
mhm,
he's voting. You
he's
know what I mean?
voting. That's the point.
That's the
That's
point.
the right.
But I've always, like, to answer your question, I've never seen Cap as political in the sense of having a political party. He's political because he represents what patriotism is and what America is and what America sends out to the world. Like, if I'm trying to think of like a Brad Pitt, for example, um, he represents what a movie star is today, or George Clooney even represents what a movie star is today, and what his image is that's sent out into the world, to France, to Saudi Arabia, to Africa, whatever. They go, oh, this guy's an actor. And that's it. Like he might do some activism stuff. He might throw some money at a political cause. Matt Damon was doing stuff with water in Africa at one point. Um, all these different things, but I don't think they see them as a symbol of anything except for Hollywood. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? They have an
Hmm.
idea, a concept of what the film industry is. A lot of these countries have their own film industry. And so they're like, oh, he's just an actor. So if you do that with a Captain America, what does he send out to? What is the message that his presence sends out into the world? And because he's wearing a flag, he represents the entire country, the entirety of the country, you know, east to west, north, south, Hawaii, Alaska. You know what I mean? Like he represents the entirety of that. And so when they see him, what do they think? So in that respect, he is political. Do you know what I mean? Like,
The first time you met him, he's political because he's punching Hitler in the
yeah, yeah,
face.
absolutely.
And
And
like, what if somebody had him punching Netanyahu in the face, or uh, what if he took a position between Israel and Gaza or whatever?
or
Like,
or Ukraine and Russia, yeah,
Ukraine and Russia. Like where does Captain America stand at that
right.
point? And we're using him because, for obvious reasons, we're
He's the
citing him.
most obvious reason,
But now you make it like Luke Cage, Power Man. Like,
right?
is he? He's regulated to the ghetto or to the upper, the Bronx or something, or
Harlem and stuff, yeah.
or Harlem, and not America. Although in some ways, maybe he represents America even more than Captain America, you know?
Agreed.
Uh, or you get like Superman, who's an alien, an immigrant. Like, what is he flies around sometimes carrying the American flag, right?
Oh, before I
Uh,
forget, speaking of Superman, because whenever I think of Superman politically, I think of Frank Miller and I think of Dark Knight Returns. Today is the 40th anniversary of Dark Knight Returns. So cheers to you, Frank.
oh wow, cheers. Boom. Good God.
40 years, man.
Good
I can't
God.
believe that.
And yet, and he, he played, I think he was a Boy Scout that leaned toward fascism, right?
I mean, if we listen to everything that Alan Moore says, I think all superheroes lean that way.
Sure. And that's where to pull it back to us for a minute
Mm,
and our creations. I don't know how to write I know how to write Fantastic Four maybe because that's a family and it's outer space and it's adventure. Like I don't
right.
think they get super political. I'm sure Reed Richards has gone to Illuminati meetings among Professor X, Namor, uh,
Yeah,
Black
yeah.
Bolt, all the Illuminati of superheroes, as it were, Doctor Strange, but like there are certain characters that lean towards us more social justice, more anti-bullying, and the problem with the real world is you're dealing with an Epstein file that is putting a lot of people on blast, whether or not they were by association or really there or really did some evil shit.
Mm,
That's what they have to parse, which makes it unfair. Like I've been reading about this playwright, this feminist playwright who was supposed to have a play coming out soon, and the theater decided to put the kibosh on it because her ex-husband was invited to a couple of Epstein kind of scenarios that Epstein wasn't even at. But by
wow.
association, and by association, in other words, I think she might have gone to two of these things and didn't even know who maybe an Epstein was or he wasn't there, but because the files was naming names and doing whatever. I have not read any of it because I can't. Okay.
You would
Um,
be. I I've read some of the things that were said, and it's vile. When it's Let me put it this way: when it's dark, like it's black. When it's vile, it's disgusting. Like you like the and John Mulaney did a stand up uh, about a year or so after he was done with rehab, and
right.
he tells a story towards the end of the stand up special, which is on Netflix. It's called Baby J. Uh,
Hmm.
Towards the end of it, he tells an anecdote about what he did to get drugs and how he stole money from himself to buy a Rolex watch for $12,000 just to get $6,000 to buy drugs.
Hmm.
When he ends it,
Hmm.
he says, "That was one story I'm willing to share. You could,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to handle the ones that I'm not."
Right.
And that's what I
Right.
when you think about vile is like disgusting, dark is
So
black. And
no,
these are
it is
things that
black.
were released either by accident or on purpose. So there's stuff that's much worse that we're not going to see.
Oh, yeah. So
Like,
so two things. So the female playwright who I don't know what's ultimately happening with the theater. They had an immediate reaction to her association through her ex-husband. Uh, but everyone is like, a lot of people are defending her. I've never heard of her. I don't know her work or anything, but it sounds like a lot of people being thrown under the bus just because their name was named in a document of so many documents. So that could be unfair, right? But to speak to what you just said about vile, disgusting, dark blackness, like a friend of mine posted just one smidgen of an email exchange that is so light next to the rest of the darkness that I'm just going to read how the email was a one sentence thing that said, was to Epstein from somebody said, "Do you remember the name of the gynecologist that you used to send your victims to? Do you remember the name of the gynecologist that you used to send your victims to?" And then the response was basically there was no fussing over the word victims, but he needed the question narrowed down to geographically, Jeffrey Epstein.
There
So
you
it's
go.
like, and just reading that little bit, like that's not even near what you're talking about. I'm
Right,
already want to like, I want to become the not Captain America. I want to become the Punisher
right.
and dig up his body and kill it again.
Like so they one of the things that they had said was uh, Trump's bodyguard, I think it was Trump's bodyguard, threatened like a 14-year-old girl that she would be on the back nine if she meaning of his golf course, she would be buried, and that kind of thing. And it's like, well, how do you like, well, somebody dig up the golf courses, like it's obvious something's going. And then the other thing, the only thing they raided was his island. He has a ranch, I think, in Arizona called Zorro Ranch, which fuck you for using Zorro. But like, um, the thing that I want to really bring up, and this is why like the whole superhero thing really brought up, came to mind, was so it's been proven, I think, I don't think I'm speaking out of school when I say this, but Epstein was a Mossad agent. Um, he was a CIA asset. Um, the emails and stuff that he had sent back and forth between the creator of 4chan and had started off on Reddit. It's been shown that he's basically the reason why a MAGA movement exists. Not even MAGA, but just like a divisive country. Like, and the thing is, you can put this in someone's hand and you can go, here it is. This is the moment. This is it. And people are still not seeing those connections. And what's funny is for the past, I'll say 16 years, maybe let's say 14, you know, uh, 16 to 14 years, the right have been the almost exclusive progenitors of conspiracy theories. And now it's like you look at this stuff, and all I can think of is all the conspiracy theories that I'm coming to. And it's like, now I'm the maniac, you know? And it's just
I
it just makes me think, like how do you
Well,
stop
what
this?
happens is you start to get consumed. I feel like someone's trying to alert you from behind you,
I see
and
her.
we're in the middle of a discussion.
Yeah,
But
she's fine.
is there an emergency?
What's up?
Hello.
I just wanted to tell everybody that I still exist.
Hi.
Bye.
Congratulations.
I know, it's such a
In
difficult experience.
inhale, exhale.
Okay.
She's going to be 13 in 15 days, and that's why all this
Oh
stuff
boy.
really gets me,
Right, right. So no, I was gonna say it's making us crazy. And I actually
I
know I'm
agree.
a guy
I
that can get
agree.
obsessed and go down the rabbit hole myself, and then my day is gone, right?
Right.
Like, and so I know myself well enough, and like even my girlfriend Jen has been she's like, I'm gonna put my phone on the other side of the studio and not look at it for 8 hours. I
Mhm.
can't. I can't. And that's how I guess she consumes the news on her phone. I do it on a laptop, whatever, same thing. But like there is nothing you can do. But now, oh, you're a writer or you're an artist and you actually write stories about heroes. So I'm sure Marvel and DC Comics are struggling with this idea right now.
I
And
don't I don't know that they
that's
are.
what they do. I'm sure some writers are. I'm
Sure.
sure.
And I think, that's probably short-sighted of me to say. You're right. I think that you're also forgetting the fact that Marvel's owned by Disney, DC's owned by Warner Brothers.
Mhm.
Time Warner, like some of the DC movies during the Snyder years were produced by Steve Mnuchin, who was
Mhm.
Trump's Treasury Secretary. So it's like, like
Right.
you can't even consume something you like without, like you can't go to there are certain restaurants that are just like, pouring money into ice. There's a bakery here in Pittsburgh called the Oakmont Bakery that they've always been conservative leaning. They've
Right.
never mentioned their politics or anything, but then they just had one of their workers picked up by ICE like a couple of days ago, and like some people are like they're rumored to be taking care of the family behind the scenes, but that's great. But like you fostered this environment, you know what I mean? Like you pushed forth this rhetoric, even in sort of like what they would do is every year at the election, they would print up cookies with the candidates' faces on them, and they would have everybody online vote which cookie was going to be the winner, and it's always overwhelmingly Trump, and it's like even when Obama won, or when Joe Biden won, excuse me, and so it's like you're still pushing that rhetoric forward, and you're
Hmm.
not taking responsibility, even if you're
Hmm.
taking care of this family, you're still not taking responsibility for what you've done.
Right.
And to me, it's like I don't want to.
It's contradictory, like
Yeah,
as well.
and I don't want to be not associated with that stuff, but I could be because clearly I don't. But I don't want to. I don't want anybody to ever mistake where I come from. You know what I mean? Like what my alliances are. Like I've said it to you
Right.
here before. Like my name's probably on a list, of blue, uh, kind of liberal thinking people. Like that's
Right.
is what it is. Like I can't change
Right.
that. I'm not going to change my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Right.
um,
Trying to give red dicks blue balls. Um, no, but I think Vito, and I don't know why I was just thinking this right now when you were talking about all this, but like for instance, and I didn't even finish up that little anecdote about the feminist playwright who
hmm,
like I think is now, they're just like, come on already, just because you're in a room with someone. So I want to say to them, oh, okay, so the anybody who's voted for Trump, do we now protest everything they do? Their business, their store, their persona, their like, just because you're in a room with Epstein does not make you a vile, disgusting human being. Just because, now if you're on the island and doing some shit, we're learning more about that. Maybe there's a little more of a, okay, what the hell are you doing on the island? But again, I don't know all the details. I'm not reading this stuff. It's disgusting, and like you don't need to convince me anymore that these people
no,
are
no, no,
bad.
yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
That's for sure.
you know. But now, like and now they're putting the Clintons on blast, and they're like, "We'll talk about it. Yeah, yeah,
Right.
sure. Let's talk about it. I'm down to talk about it." And then other people are afraid to talk about it. And then like they're trying to turn the conversation around, and I get
But
so
the thing
sick and
is,
tired of it. But
they were like the Clintons are in contempt of court because they're not answering the subpoena. And it's like there were so many people that during Trump's initial Russia, like with the voting machines and like Russian interference that were subpoenaed that didn't go, and nothing, no contempt of court, was ever threatened. And it's like,
right.
why is there two legal systems? That's the question. Why
Yeah,
are
yeah.
there
Well,
two legal systems?
or why is there one legal system and then no law?
Right.
How about that?
But I
There
mean,
is
like,
a legal system, but they're not really using it. But I will say this: the answer to the real answer, the real life answer, where we don't have superheroes in real life, right,
hmm,
is that we actually have heroes. And
hmm.
the heroes are the journalists, the lawyers, the people on the ground, the protesters that are not agitating, but are actually doing, real protesting. You know what I'm saying?
Don
Um,
Lemon is not the most like he's very like I don't want to say does puff pieces, but he's not the most I wouldn't send him into a war zone. You know what I mean?
right,
Like
right,
for like gritty journalism. But God
sure,
bless him, man, he's doing the work.
right,
You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
Like and like that's what you need. Like you need people like there is a I forget her name. She was a reporter at um, in the White House. Like embedded in the White House, doing like press conferences with that chick. I forget the blonde lady. They're all blonde. I don't. What am I talking about?
Oh, you
But
mean the spokesperson for Trump?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so she said something, and then
Don't even know that person's name.
but like the reporter was just like pressing, like and it's like you gotta do this.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, oh yeah, there was an example recently the night. I think somebody showed like a reporter talking to Trump, and he was being so whack. And I forget what outfit they were from, and he just does the whole "you're fake, you're a liar." It's just
Mhm.
like, so there's no conversation. Then
Right,
why are they
right.
even in the room? And like
Like
I think that's
you
his
can't
whole point.
debate. you can't debate people that won't, take a debate seriously. They won't.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
anyway,
I mean, I guess out of all the superheroes, the two that I can think of is Matt Murdock and Jennifer Walters.
mm,
Daredevil and She-Hulk, lawyers, right? Like they might be able to achieve something that, because you're right, or Alan Moore or even Howard Chaykin, maybe like uh to be a certain kind of hero is to maybe have your own sense of authority and justice, i.e., fascism, or can lead to fascism, because at the end of the day, it's your way or the highway, right? Like, and when I say your way, it's the Hulk's way, or it's Tony Stark's way. Could you imagine? I mean, no, nobody's ever answered. I know a lot of people got angry when Zack Snyder's Superman killed Zod,
mhm,
because Zod was about to kill a family, I believe, right?
yeah.
Now, is the idea that I forget the scenario, what was actually physically happening, but that Superman could do both, could stop Zod and stop the family, or because he kills Zod is the choice in the movie, right?
Mhm.
Do you remember the scene well enough to
Totally.
know how you would have written it that would be the one that people like would have rather have had or something? Like,
There's very simple solutions to it. Put your hands over his eyes. Your hands are invulnerable. The beams would go back into his face.
oh, all
Other
right.
people have said fly him up out of there and like
Oh,
just
okay. All right. You're right. You're right. He could have not, quote, killed him, and it upset everyone because Superman doesn't kill. Okay.
right.
So, but
And those are just two scenarios. I'm sure we could, put Mark Wade down, put Roger Stern down, and put
yeah,
John Byrne down, and all three of them would come up
they
with
would come up with, of
300.
course, or you just did it. So,
Right.
or you just said it. I do think at the end of the day, even me and talking about this scenario where I went to help someone in distress, I could have done something wrong. I don't think I did anything wrong. I think I only helped. But you never know what's going to happen in a
You put
situation.
you put the weapon down.
Yeah,
Think about it. Like that's you realized in the moment that what the situation called for was not um, a show of force, but a show of compassion.
right,
And that's exactly what you did. You put that just by putting the board down, you showed
yeah,
compassion, even though you didn't say, "Hey, I'm
right,
listening. Talk to me."
right,
Calm down. You didn't
right.
say that with words. You said it by
Actually, I did say that later. I did a version of
okay.
that with Mindy. We
Mhm.
did try to like distract them by asking them. Well, actually, they were into like trying to help the person that had been hurt,
Yeah, yeah,
and so we just made it about that. And then we're like, okay, well, you can, and like make, the cops are coming, because then they started to say that they wanted the cops to come, and that's where it became like, wow, this is a whole other situation that I don't
yeah.
even understand totally. But like, I guess the question we're trying to answer, which I think is impossible to answer, is again using the Epstein files. Epstein's dead.
Mhm.
There's a whole bunch of people that are being implicated for their bad behavior. And what does Captain America do? What does Tony Stark do? We know what Bruce Banner does.
Here's 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 my answer for that. Captain America doesn't do much. Captain America shows up in Minneapolis or wherever ICE is and defuses because his presence alone should be enough to keep it from getting out of hand. Should be. I don't like, it can easily go one way or the other. Could be that somebody says, well, we have the authority of the United States government to be here. And Captain America's like, well, I, also have the authority of, Shield or whatever, you could even say United States government to be here to protect these people. So that's what Captain America does. The actual litigation, She-Hulk and Daredevil, you said, I'm going to throw out another character. Mark Andreyko's Manhunter. Kate Spencer was also a lawyer, but she was a little rougher around the edges in terms of the crime fighting aspect. She was like, hard nosed. I think she would be another good one to throw in there. Um, you would hope that Bruce Wayne wasn't on the list of people that were on the island because you would he's rich too.
He would have been invited. He would
He
have been
definitely would have been
invited.
invited. He would have been in an email like, can we? There was somebody. Oh, that's what it was. So here's a really funny tidbit that I saw an email over. Epstein talking to Soon-Yi Previn, Woody Allen's step adopted daughter and wife now. Um, Epstein wanted to invite Howard Stern to something. I can't remember what it was. And she wrote back, no, definitely not. You know, like he
Oh
like
yeah, I saw that. I
so
saw
it's
that.
like so that's the kind of scenario you want Bruce Wayne to be in. You want Bruce Wayne to be like you want Epstein to go like Bruce Wayne would be a good guy to get on our side, and then somebody be like, no, you don't want Bruce Wayne.
You don't want Bruce Wayne. That's right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right. I love that. And somebody made a point on The View. I watch Whoopi Goldberg sometimes on The View,
Hmm.
and because she's our like modern day B. Arthur in some ways. They made a mention that so far the only person that's in jail from all this is a woman.
Yeah, yeah. Ghislaine Maxwell, the only
Yeah,
that's the
yeah.
craziest thing.
So I want to veer because we have like 40 minutes, let's say. I want to veer like 'cause I think you're right. Captain America would show up and just be a presence of sorts. He'd probably have some rotten tomatoes and cans thrown at him by certain protesters,
Sure.
and then the ICE agents would probably misinterpret his presence as being a show of force for the Fed,
Yeah.
and then one of them might make a mistake and he might slap them in the wrist, and then they'd all be standing around going, "Wait a second, where do you stand, Captain America?"
Hmm.
And he's like the outlier. Captain America is the spirit of the best of America, whatever that means.
Yes.
Okay. So I think that's the short answer of a very difficult question to try to put, superheroes into real life in this
Mhm.
way, I want to talk about because it's Black History Month. And by the way, why is it only a month? There you got my man, Malcolm X. Who drew that?
I don't know. I just
Okay.
found that, there we go. Justice and equality
Justice
by any
League.
means necessary.
So I want to talk about like some of the more popular Marvel, DC, Black superheroes that we've enjoyed over the years, and then some of the Black characters that we have invented in our own comics. Um, like I could, like there's some that I remembered right offhand, and then I did the corny thing of like, who are the most popular Black superheroes? And
Hmm.
I googled that a little bit because I forget some of them. But do you want to talk about some of our favorites? Like,
I want to talk about kind of an under the radar one of my favorite Black superheroes, DC Comics. Uh, he appeared in All Star Squadron. His name is Amazing Man. His name is Will Everett. He was an African American Olympian who had competed in the 36 Olympics. You know, the one where
right?
uh, Hitler was in charge. This was the one in Berlin. Um, the thing about I love this character so much. Like I remember, when the character debuted, I was so into it. Like I don't know, like he do you know what he looks like?
I if I saw him, I'd be like, oh, okay, that guy.
Yeah, let me find a picture real quick because I don't know what it is about the costume, his costume that always spoke to me, but like it just like, man, I love that costume. Here, let me bring it up for you real quick. Where do I share my screen? No.
And this is from All Star Squadron.
Yes.
How many issues was that?
Oh God, I forget. All-Star Squadron wasn't very long.
Right.
So I think he was in issue 28. Do you see
And
him
he
there?
was a sports guy, like an Olympian. Oh, I remember Amazing Man.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, he was an athlete and very, very, we're talking about art creations. When I started doing Golden Guard, I wanted a black Olympian athlete very similar to Amazing Man on the team, and
Right.
we created Cadmus, who's our version of Amazing Man. He's like Amazing Man and Mr. Terrific, the current Mr. Terrific from
Right.
movies and stuff. But yeah, like I love Amazing Man. Like I will never not talk about how much I love that character. There's a really great cover. Oh, I almost want to show you this, where he's on a cross, I think. Um, being like, with the not the KKK, but like neo-Nazis.
Hmm.
Uh, it is such a striking cover that I got to show it to you.
Show
Um,
that and find that, and also I'm
yeah, go
trying to
ahead.
find out how many issues there were of. Well, you brought up Mr. Terrific, and I got to say, I have never. I remember All Star Squadron. Did Roy Thomas write this?
He did indeed. And Jerry Ordway
And Jerry
did a
Ordway.
lot of inking on it. He did some covers, but
Oh,
it's
Rich
mostly
Buckler.
Rich Buckler and oh, why can't I think of his name? I can't think of his name. Oh,
Well,
here it
there's
is. Um,
who also drew it, you mean?
Rick Hoberg.
Rick Hoberg. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to get a sense of how many issues. Like, is there an omnibus or something?
There's not, to my knowledge, because I would own that shit. I do
I
have.
know how much you love this comic series, and I remember picking it up and reading it and feeling that it was a little dry in its writing style. And I remember, oh, Roy Thomas.
Yeah,
In my opinion, kind of has a dry writing style.
yeah.
Like the characters don't have as much personality, maybe, as they could have. But
I'm
I don't
rereading
know.
it like currently in the DC Showcase. Remember the black and white collections
Yeah,
we did? Like I'm rereading it now, and it's such a hard read. I love the characters, but it's such a hard read.
I
For
think it went about 60 issues with a couple other like littered issues, like they were
Hmm.
in other comics. So they could easily, if they wanted to, collect it into an omnibus.
I would.
Oh yeah, look at that cross. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean,
So yeah, that's
read what
intense.
he's like. Do you see what that guy is saying? This is what happens when one of his kind talks back to a real American.
Oh boy.
Like that is so prescient and like
Yep.
when you think about it. Like it's so current, even though
Yep.
it's not like we haven't gotten to the point of. Well, I mean, there were some lynchings that went on, towards the end of last year, so I can't say we're not there. Like we're
Yeah.
past that at this point. But like
Right.
it's so relevant to today, and that character, those, unfortunately, black characters are perfect for, bringing up the shortcomings in being an American.
Right. Totally. Well, and it's a contrast, right? Like,
Yeah.
uh, you mentioned Mr. Terrific, who again was someone that just escaped me. I never understood the character. I don't know if I've ever read him in a comic book, or he might have been like a C character, C level type character in the background or something, and maybe something I've read. But when I saw him in the James Gunn movie, I was like, Batman. He's Batman. Like,
Mhm.
he's basically another version of a Batman. Like he was intent. I want to see a show that stars this character.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun.
Do you
So
know, do you
you
know
know
what's funny about him? He figured prominently in Jeff Johns' JSA revival in the 2000s. He was in the Justice League Unlimited cartoon where he was basically the guy in the chair that would basically send everybody on their missions. You
okay.
know who created that character? That version, the Michael Holt character. It was in the pages of Spectre, and it was Tom Mandrake and John Ostrander.
Oh wow.
Like, isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? Like, in the
Yeah.
character, you don't see this in the movie, but the character was an Olympian or an
Right.
Olympic level athlete, genius, inventor, all that stuff. And he
Right.
lost his wife and he was about to commit suicide. And that's when the Spectre stepped in.
Interesting. Well, just like
Great
they always
story.
do, like when someone can take a character that may have been around for a while and been a certain version and then do flip the script, as it were. Like the Peacemaker, that the James Gunn Peacemaker that we've come to love
Mhm.
is loosely based and inspired on a twist that Paul Kupperberg and Dennis Cowan drew in an issue of Vigilante.
Wow.
Like it was just two issues of Peacemaker, and I think Dennis only drew one of the two-part story, and
That's
maybe
funny.
Todd Smith drew the other one or something. So I wanted to bring up some. Just I want us to do riffs because a lot of the characters we're going to bring up, a lot of the people who would listen to this podcast know.
Mhm.
Okay,
Or
so
maybe
maybe
not.
just do like a quick, or maybe not. Let's do like a quick round robin. I'm going to name some characters, and then
Okay.
it might inspire some others. And then I want to get to our characters. So I've always loved him as Power Man
Luke
of
Cage.
Power Man and Iron Fist. Like that's how I read Luke Cage.
You
And then I
know,
discovered he was Luke Cage.
yeah, but the thing about Luke Cage was that he was born out of an era of blaxploitation films, and
Yep.
like I don't think the character becomes the character we love
Right.
until they put him with the other character that was born out of grindhouse cinema, like kung fu cinema, which
Yep.
was Iron Fist. So
Yep.
until you put those two together, I don't think you have who we adore. I think you still have
Right.
the right character. The Brian Azzarello, Richard Corbin Cage miniseries,
I love that.
mm,
I love
one of
that.
the best. Like, and it's I don't think it's been collected in a
No,
long.
it has. It has. I
No,
think
but I mean not in a long time. I think it's out of print, but
Oh,
like
I'm sure. I'm sure. No, that was a
it's
great
everywhere.
series. So Power Man Iron Fist was a series I read a bunch. Again, more Dennis Cowan. I believe was it Carrie Gamble? Mary Jo
Yes.
Duffy, who goes by I think Joe Duffy now.
Mhm.
So yeah, Luke, and then of course you go backwards and it's totally a blaxploitation comic. And I'm surprised that when they teamed him up with Kung Fu, that it wasn't Shang-Chi.
Yeah, that's a good
I
point.
mean, was Shang-Chi around before Iron
Yeah,
Fist at the same time,
the same
right?
time, I would say.
Isn't that weird? But maybe they're trying to go more with black and white, versus,
The thing about
Chinese.
Shang-Chi was that I think because it was based off of Fu Manchu, so it
Right,
had its own lore.
right,
Whereas, this was
right,
kind of open.
right. All right. So we got Luke Cage, and then also he's had a successful TV show.
Mhm.
He's a well-known character right now, which is awesome. Um, I'm going to throw a quick curveball because I might be wrong, but with Deathlock, is he black or
He is.
there was the first version, or I know
Mhm.
there was another. He's always been Luther something, right?
I want to say it's Michael Collins, something. I'm going to look that up real quick.
Feel like it's Luther. I think there might be two versions, to be honest.
There are, but the original
Um,
was black.
Deathlock,
Luther Manning.
Luther Manning. Okay, and I'm assuming he was black.
Mhm.
Anyway, that's one of my favorite black superhero characters. Like I've
Created by
always
Dwayne
loved
McDuffie,
Deathlock.
or
We said,
co-created, I should say, by Dwayne
and I
McDuffie.
think Rich Buckler was the.
Rich Buckler, Doug Mensch. Yeah.
Yep. So Deathlock is a great character because he's like kind of like a Terminator, like half black, half zombie, Terminator war hero, right? Like
Yeah,
kind
he's
of a
kind
thing.
of like Cyborg almost from the Teen
A little
Titans.
cyborg. Speaking of cyborg, I loved Victor Stone in Teen Titans,
Yes.
New Teen Titans. That was a great character. I didn't think they did as much with him as they could have in the movie.
I,
Um,
we talk about the Snyder cut and, the Snyder Bros and all that stuff, but the Snyder cut of the Justice League movie, Cyborg is fantastic. I think like one of the things that you do get
that's true.
with the extended version is a better uh, hold on that character.
Yep.
That
Yep.
said, I do not. I'm one of those people that are like, I don't want to see Cyborg, Starfire, Raven, any of the original Teen Titans, including Nightwing. I don't want to see any of them on the Justice League. I only want them together.
Agreed.
I
Agreed.
like I get the idea of graduating up and like leveling up and like being like now we're at the big boys table. But my God, I love them when they're the Titans more than I
No,
do.
but we were thinking, I believe, when Zack Snyder was announcing the Justice League and that they were going to bring in Cyborg, I kept thinking, where's John Stewart Green Lantern?
Yeah.
If you want a black character, you know, and they didn't have, well, they had Ryan Reynolds, but I don't think that was part of the DCU,
And
like
also the new 52 was very pushing hard for Cyborg into the Justice League. Like from like because New 52 was a new origin.
right, right,
So like if you read the New 52 JLA or
right.
just by Jeff Johns and Jim Lee, Cyborg is a founding member of the Justice League in that. And I
All
think
right,
that's where they took their cues from for the
all
film.
right. Well, we're also talking about comics we read in the 80s and the 70s, right?
Yeah,
So,
well,
but speaking of
sorry.
John Stewart, Green Lantern, which I believe will be in the TV show
Mhm.
with the Hal Jordan, what a great like paradigm shifting series that Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams did, back in the day in the 70s,
I think
introducing John Stewart.
the other thing about John Stewart is he's the Lantern that probably had PTSD from being a veteran, probably
Hmm.
from uh, one of the best John Stewart stories. If you ever want to read a good John Stewart story, is the Mike Mignola, Jim Starlin Cosmic Odyssey.
Mm.
Um, John Stewart, prior to the events of this miniseries, uh, destroyed a planet. And it's either by accident or on purpose. You don't really know. And then you read Cosmic Odyssey, and you see that he's still dealing with the repercussions of it,
Right.
and it's amazing.
That's
Absolutely
great.
amazing.
That's great. I mean, I have to say it, Black Panther T'Challa,
Oh,
right?
of
Like
course.
like he's probably at the top, the first black superhero introduced in Marvel Comics. I don't think he was the black superhero technically in comic books, but definitely at Marvel. And has grown exponentially as a character from not just being a black superhero from a technology advanced society, but has represented in so many different ways and is well beloved, and all the characters that surround him, and beautifully rendered by like Billy Graham and Don McGregor in those Jungle comics or whatever that was called,
Yeah,
like
Jungle Action.
Jungle Action. Like again, sounds racist as I say it, but that's what it was called. Like
That's the crazy thing, though, is if you look back at the 70s Marvel output, a lot of these kind of, not, I wouldn't say minor, but maybe not necessarily even minority, but a lot of these heroes were created in the magazine format in black and white,
hmm
uh, bigger format, sometimes a little more risque, not necessarily adult, but they weren't in the actual comics; they were in the magazines. So, in trying to track down a lot of these older issues, you're going to have a hard time,
like
because
White Tiger, I think was in there,
yeah,
and so I'm also thinking Misty Knight. Great character.
she was great in the Iron Fist and Luke Cage TV shows as well.
Yep,
I really
I
like
love.
that actor's portrayal of her.
Yep.
It's the part sometimes these characters don't get their due in the comics. They're just set dressing and like heroes for hire or whatever.
Yeah.
Like then you get them like a Colleen Wing and a Misty Knight in a
Yeah.
like a sequence and a fight sequence on a TV show, and you get what you always wanted to see.
Right. Plus, just more female energy, man. Like speaking
Yeah,
of Storm Aurora from X-Men, like has one of the best characters in Marvel Comics, like and I stopped reading X-Men a long time ago, so I don't even know what's up with her, but she had so many stories,
she's probably out of. I think what's funny is some point in the late 90s, maybe even early 2000s, somebody at Marvel figured out, all right, if we did a one for one matchup, Superman, Captain America, Batman, maybe Spider-Man in terms of, or Wolverine, like, in terms of exposure and stuff. And somebody smartly said, Wonder Woman, huh, Storm. And that is the right tact.
Yeah,
Should be the Wonder Woman of the Marvel Universe.
absolutely,
You could say
absolutely.
Sue Storm. You could say She-Hulk. You could say any of these other characters, but I think it's Storm because when you think about the evolution of the character, she is afflicted with claustrophobia, so she's got like a
Hmm.
whole thing. Um, she's gone from being a somewhat a goddess worshipped character to being a superhero to being the leader of a gang with a mohawk
Hmm.
underground
Yep,
to
yep.
being the leader of the X-Men from being just the like the pretty one to being the queen of Wakanda. Like Storm, in terms of
Unbelievable story.
evolution alone, like
Yeah,
there's so many things, and credit to Chris Claremont, like for bringing her in, but there's so many other people that added to that character that when they added, they did not take away, they added something more. And
absolutely.
that's the thing about whenever you're doing assignments for, like a work for hire assignments for these companies, you're not always given the opportunity to add, but God bless them. Everybody that added to her character did not do her
Hmm.
like injustice. They did her
Hmm.
absolutely well.
Hmm. Hmm. Um, I have five more, and then you might have a couple, and then I'm going to get to ours.
Mhm.
Um, I'm gonna veer toward another character I'd love to do like a team up with Deathlock would be Brother Voodoo.
Brother Voodoo is such a like the weird thing about Brother Voodoo is at some point he was being written like the Golden Age character Captain Triumph, who had a mystical brother talking to him. Like it's a Golden Age character. So there was a brother that was talking to him and giving him advice, and then Jericho was the body. And at some point that got rid of it. And I point to Brian Michael Bendis for making that character relevant to the
Mm,
current Marvel universe, like
hmm.
where they made him on par with Doctor Strange, which, when you think about it, should have been done a long time ago. And man, that's such a good idea.
Of course, and again, probably born as a black exploitation character,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, absolutely. Voodoo
So
and Haiti.
yeah,
You think about Live and Let Die, the James Bond movie. Probably
right,
came around like it probably came out the first Brother Voodoo in like Marvel Presents or Marvel Premiere
right,
or something like that.
right.
Like probably came out around that movie or just shortly after.
Hmm. Next up, Black Goliath, which again, he's now Goliath because why do you have to say black?
Right.
And actually, I have an affection for Black Goliath for one specific reason, which is I think it's Black Goliath issue either 3 or 4, where it's a cover I think by Jack Kirby, where Stiltman is fighting Black Goliath, and
That's
it's the
great.
most.
I've never seen that.
You've never seen this cover?
I'm gonna look it up
Do
right now.
yourself a favor, see if you can pull it up. It is one of the best covers, and it just makes you want to buy the comic. It doesn't even make sense, the cover, actually. And did you get it? Do you see it?
Yes. Let me just get a good image of it.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's number
Like,
4.
it's number 4, and it's alone. Like, if you just had a pile of comics, you like of a character in a movie, having old comics, this has to be one of the comic books that the person, has in their collection, just laying there on the floor on the rug.
All right,
Like
everybody.
everybody
This is
has
worth
got to
it.
see. Yeah, Black Goliath, issue number 4, and I think it's Kirby, right? Does
It
it?
is.
It's Kirby. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. It's not loaded. Oh, here it is. Now it's loaded.
Um, and again, he's like another scientist type character, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I think they did that as well in
they they put him in Avengers, or what movie? They
Ant-Man.
put him in
He was an Ant-Man, played by
Ant-Man.
Lawrence Fishburne.
That's right. That's right. Oh yeah, that's right. They didn't do much with him, but
I mean, they did.
he's in there.
He was a important part of the
Did he grow? Did he get big?
he didn't, as far as I
Right.
remember. He did in the What If cartoon.
Okay, now can you click on that cover and make it big? And look at
Uh,
that, what it says, 15 feet of fight and fury. Come on. 15 feet of fight and fury. Oh, and there's a John Byrne. I think he might have drawn that issue.
oh, like
Uh,
here's from the actual. Are you kidding me?
what's happening?
Is that
What?
okay? So I want to see if I can click on this image. So it's a picture from the interior. It was
A
a
double
double
page
page
splash.
spread.
Yeah, look at
That's
that.
insanity.
Now, did they have to
That's,
flip the
I mean,
comic
that's
sideways?
perfect.
Well, first of all, you got the cover.
Yeah.
15 feet of fight and fury when giants clash. It's
Like, look at
amazing.
that.
Oh yeah, look at that. And that I think is that John Byrne inked
It
by
looks like John Byrne,
somebody.
but it could be
Does it say
not
who?
there. I mean, I'd have to go back to the original what do you
Okay.
call it? But
Do
man,
you think it's from that issue?
that's great. I would have I've never seen that comic before.
You've never seen? Oh, Vito. Well, all right. Now see if we
Rich
can click on
Butler.
that.
There it is, and written by
Rich
Chris Claremont.
with Don Heck
Yeah.
inking. Wow. And then the cover is Kirby
Hmm.
and Irv Watanabe. Yeah. Can you click on that cover one more time? Um, and I wonder how many issues that was. Oh, look at that cover, man. It's so good.
So good.
It's so good. It's the best. 15 feet of fight and fury. That's why I read comics, because of things like this. All right, and now 3 left, and then there might be some more, but I want to get to ours too as well. You know, he was Iron Man for a little while, and then became War Machine.
That is how I was introduced to James Rhodes as Iron Man. not necessarily in the pages of Iron Man, but in Secret Wars. I
Ah,
remember how such a big deal that he kept his identity hidden from everybody because
right.
they were like, why is Tony? It was so funny because he was kind of not necessarily talking like airplane jive, like from the movie
Hmm.
Airplane. Like he
Right,
wasn't
right, right,
necessarily
right,
talking
right,
jive, but he was just talking back. And they're like,
right,
Tony, like you don't do this, and like
right,
I can't remember if it was revealed that it was Rhodey at the end of the by the end of the book, but like I
right,
just remember him just being like, oh, I gotta like, you know, cut the shit.
right.
Like
And I do remember, I feel like there was a reveal where like he lifts the helmet off and there's a black man's
I
face
think so
behind,
too.
and kind of like that famous EC comic story that was kind of like a Twilight Zone about an astronaut. And
Hmm.
at the
Hmm.
very end, the reveal, and I forget why it was a twist, but the twist reveal is that it's a black
Black man,
astronaut,
yeah.
a black man that's going out into space or whatever. He's a very fun character in the movies as well. Played by two different actors, Don Cheadle and I forget the other actor's name,
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard. Both great versions of the character.
But
Two left.
by the
Yeah.
way, I quoted that character when I accepted Paul Pope's uh, Harvey Award one year.
What'd you say?
Because there was a point where in the movie, Iron Man flies away and Rhodey's left in the garage and he looks at one of the silver looking suits and he says, next time, baby. And that's what I said because like I was trying to say that I would win one next time, but I
That's
never
right,
did.
baby. I never
I
got a
never got a
dinner.
dinner.
My favorite, I think, black superhero is might be the Falcon, Sam Wilson.
Oh my God. How do you
and
not?
as and especially I love the when Jack Kirby came back to Captain America and it became Captain America and the Falcon,
Mhm.
and he's wearing that like disco red and white outfit, whatever the hell that was,
Well, there was the green and orange one first.
right?
Was he? I say this and I ask this, with as much sensitivity as possible. Was he introduced as a pimp at first?
Well, so that's a good question. I don't remember that, but what I
Okay.
was going to say was one of the things I liked about Jack Kirby's rendition, and remember he was writing these comics, is
Mhm.
that he uh created a few failed attempts, I think at DC, where they're going to do magazine size comics. And one of them was black romance, like divorce comics or something like that,
Okay.
you know? And he wrote The Falcon, a love story within the pages of these Captain America comics, where,
Mhm.
so I don't remember if Steve Rogers was dating or had a love interest. Probably he did. But I love that the Falcon had this relationship going on, and even when Captain America was being a dick or something like that, and the girlfriend or would weigh in, it was great. It was really good stuff. Like, but I've always loved the Falcon. I think he's such an important character in the Marvel universe, and actually, he's Captain America right now, isn't he?
Yes. And I got clarification. He was known as Sam Snap Wilson, and he was involved in drug dealing and pimping. But then they retconned that out.
And
So
then they oh, we got to write those stories. And then the last one I'm going to bring up is the one that started the Marvel universe,
started the Marvel universe.
the
That's
Marvel Cinematic Universe.
oh Blade.
Blade.
I don't have an affinity for Blade. The movies I do, but the character Blade um, was always beautifully rendered by Gene Colan, and that was about the extent that I had with my affinity for him. But my God, when Wesley Snipes shows up in Deadpool versus Wolverine, what a wonderful, like, so good. Um,
So much fun,
I'm
and
gonna
a fun
throw,
character like you said in the movies. And what's a lot of fun is watch Blade 3,
yeah,
which has Ryan Reynolds, Patton Oswalt, like I think
Jessica
Jessica
Biel.
Biel, yeah,
Mhm.
and I think there's some other, and you could tell that who's the actor Blade,
Wesley
Wesley
Snipes.
Snipes, is so pissed off to be in this movie.
Oh my goodness, he
He
checked
is
out
not
one.
in on the joke.
There is
It
a
makes it funnier because of that.
there's an anecdote that he's supposed to be sleeping or something, and or like, but he's supposed to sleep with his eyes. I don't remember how it goes. They literally digitally put in eyeballs over his eyes because he just had no interest whatsoever.
He had no interest. It's insane. Did you have any other Marvel
Yeah,
DC?
I'm gonna go the DC route. I want to throw out Black Racer, one of Jack Kirby's
Oh
creations,
wow.
the representation of death in the DC universe, or at
Which
least in
was
the Comics
an
universe.
attempt, a very weak attempt to create uh, uh,
Silver Surfer.
comparison to Silver Surfer,
Yeah,
right?
it was so weird. Like he's on
Yeah,
skis, but
yeah,
but you know, I still think the visual of that character is just one of the like skis and sticks notwithstanding, like it's such a cool looking character, and like the gravitas that character has when he shows up on a page cannot be undersold. Like just
hmm
like I love that character. Black Lightning by Tony Isabella.
Oh
Um,
my God, Black Lightning. He had like
Trevor
three
Von
seasons
Eden,
of
right?
TV. Yeah, yeah. Um, Isabella and Eden. That's right.
Yeah.
And there was a TV show.
Mhm.
Uh,
The thing I
I,
always liked about him was that his day job was he was a school teacher. And I just thought
right,
that was like when you look at like your Sam Wilsons, who was a drug dealer, or Luke Cage, who was in prison, and you have like this black man who's a teacher. I think that was just such a underrated, like
right. Because
presented.
you had these reformed characters, and then you had this one solid, like right out
Yeah,
the gate. Although I think the reformed characters are more interesting, to be honest. But
sure,
I do
sure.
like
I
the
mean,
idea of
depends
a
on who's
teacher.
writing it. You have
True.
Vixen from the Justice League, who very similar to Animal Man. She has a totem that she can, touch and get the powers of an animal.
Right.
The most recent Aqualad, Duran, he is a black. Is he gay or bisexual? I can't remember now. I think he's a gay character, a black gay
Right.
character, which is great.
Right.
You have Signal, Duke Thomas, who was in Batman.
Oh, right.
I think created by Scott Snyder. Um, Again, like
And
the
Greg Capullo, I
I think
assume.
so. Yeah,
Right.
I think
Right.
the cool thing now is that there is a point where there is an argument by some who shall remain nameless that all of these characters being not whitewashed, but whatever the opposite is, like, oh, this is a traditionally white character that's now black, and it's like, why can't you just create new black characters? All right, here are new black characters, the Signal.
Or look at the we haven't even discussed, and maybe you can save this for next time. Milestone
Yeah,
comics
the
is that
Milestone suite of characters alone, like,
which I've never read. I'm embarrassed to admit I've never read,
do you know
but
what's
I
crazy about them is that when we talk about Milestone now, we talk about it with like fondness and like, nostalgia, and just like, can any of us name, some of us can any of us
mhm.
name a Milestone like series story arc?
No, I mean, but I didn't read it though. But I
They
never
got
hear about
canceled.
them
They
either.
got canceled quickly. That's the thing. Like they got
Well, what were
canceled
the name of the
early.
characters? Icon,
Icon, Hardware, Rocket, and the biggest one, the most famous one, Static.
Static, right? And wasn't there one that kind of had was there
Blood
Zombie
Syndicate,
maybe
Blood
with an
Syndicate,
X?
Zombie with an X. Yes.
Right. You know who we should have on the show this month to talk about
Hmm.
Milestone and all kinds of superhero characters and also superhero building, through Joe Illidge.
Yeah.
Joe would have a lot to say,
Yeah. That's a good idea.
So, and I know we have a couple other people in mind that we want to talk to.
I want to.
Um,
I want to do a quick shout out to a couple of Black creators. Ray Anthony Height, of course, been on our show.
right.
Paris Cullins, Dennis
Yep.
Cowan, Trevor Von Eden, Dwayne McDuffie, the late Dwayne McDuffie,
Ron Wilson.
Ron Wilson,
I
Rob
think Carrie
Wimberly,
Gamble. I think Carrie Gamble was
Harry
Black.
Yeah, I think, yeah. There's so many, like the contributions of Black artists to
Billy
comics,
Graham.
not even just, to Black characters, just in general, like just can't be understood.
Michael Davis.
Michael Davis, good God, you're right. There's another gentleman who worked
Joe
at
Illidge.
worked at a Milestone that passed away. Um, I'm forgetting his name. I can see his face and I can't think of his name. But let's talk about our own characters while I'm trying to remember that name.
Oh, and what's his name? And why am I blanking? Jamal Igle. Jamal Igle.
Jamal Igle,
Kari Randolph.
Chris Cross.
Ron Wimberly.
Yeah,
Your mom.
my mom. or just in
No, you
general.
don't know the artist, your mom?
No, I don't know your mom.
That's gonna be my new Instagram account, your mom. Okay, so do you want to talk about some of your Black heroes you've
I mean,
co-created?
I think the most obvious one would be the Purple Heart. Uh,
Right.
I think when I mentioned it earlier, when we were coming up with the idea of the Purple Heart, it was a more of a Jim Thompson type of story, um, and
Who would also serve as a kind of a Silver Surfer for the new Brooklyn universe in a
right,
way.
right. And then what happened along the way is like, when we got to the Brooklyn Bridge, um, flags going up and everything. What I don't know why, but like we decided, all right, we're going to put him as instead of a Vietnam vet, we're going to put him into a unnamed modern war. Um, although I think it
Well,
might.
because we want to deal with the analogy of a Purple Heart medal type
Right,
thing.
right.
So that was on you to figure out. I just know that we thought, oh, the Purple Heart, he has a Purple Heart, and yet what does a Purple Heart become,
Mhm.
cosmically or whatever. So, and then you invented a war that would make it kind of an evergreen, because I guess when you think about Tony Stark, like how many different wars has he been in if it was 5 years ago, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So that, and then you did such a great job dealing with like gangs and dealing with an election, who's going to be
Do you
the
know what?
the mayor or the president of New Brooklyn kind of a
You know
thing.
what the thing I was proudest of with the Purple Heart? It was the idea that here was a guy who was trying to get out of New York, try to get out of the projects, and the first his first instinct was to become a rapper, and he was terrible. Like it's
Yeah,
one of the things that I always wanted to make sure that everybody knew that he was
right.
terrible. But then when he does the rap at the end, it's like he's like become something new. So the uh, the lyricism was a little bit different and a lot better. Um,
More like like the message, that
yes,
famous rap,
yes.
like going from like bling to like the message, kind of thing.
And so that was the one thing. And then he joined the military, and that took him out. And then he was, hurt during the war and everything. And then the thing that uh, the overarching theme of the story was always all he wants to do is go home. What happens if home is taken away from him? Meaning literally moved away. So that was kind of like, so all he wanted to do was leave. Now all he wants to do is come home, and he can't go home.
Yep, yep,
So that was
yep,
always the kind of thematic thesis of the whole thing.
yep.
Robert Washington is who I was thinking of, who passed away in 2020.
uh right,
But
right.
yeah, then I mentioned him earlier, Cadmus from The Golden Guard. Again, based on my love for Mr. Terrific and Amazing Man. I work on Milestone for Charlie, for Zion Studios. Uh,
Quickly tell us something about Cadmus and then tell us something about Milestone, like as a character and their
Cadmus, again,
superpowers.
I had him as a Olympian, probably at the peak of human achievement in terms of mental and physical abilities. And then what happens is in the Golden Guard, members of the team disappear in 1944. They are told that they eventually come back. And then what happens is after he comes back, he's lynched. But the thing is, he's not told about this until he goes into the future. And
Hmm.
so Cadmus is the one that kind of spurns, well, what are we going back to? Like, why would
Hmm.
we go back? We have the opportunity to change everything now. So let's change it now. And that's another, thesis statement for the
Hmm.
Golden Guard is like, we don't have to wait for a better tomorrow. We can do that
Hmm.
right now.
Hmm.
Milestone is very interesting because uh, it wasn't something that I created. He handed me the idea of this character having all these powers based on the fundamental forces of the universe, and he is so powerful. And I thought, well, what's crazy is when people are so powerful, especially superheroes, when they're so powerful, they miss like the smallest thing, and it's
Hmm.
like these little things just kind of breaking him apart slowly
Hmm.
but surely. And I find it, as a black man, that it's like an allegory for the way the system treats black people in the
Hmm.
country. And it slowly breaks you apart, sometimes in big chunks, sometimes in little chunks. And it's like what remains. And that was the thing that I wanted to do with the characters, like tell, the reader, even after you take away his powers and everything like
Hmm.
that, what remains is better than what you thought he was before.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think, it's like you can't take that from anyone, whether it be
Hmm.
black, brown,
Hmm.
whatever. Like you can't take away the person that's inside. You can put them in prison. And there's another character in that story whose name is Soundcheck, and he's a younger character that is kind of being mentored by Milestone, and it shows
Hmm.
up in the Spider Squirrel original 3-issue miniseries. And Soundcheck goes by a different name in the miniseries. And Milestone approaches him while he's being carted off to jail and says, "I want to give you an opportunity that men like us don't get." And so
Yep.
he kind of reevaluates his life, and at some point
Mm.
during the miniseries of Milestone, he's like, we need to find him because this is like I feel like something bad is about to happen,
Hmm.
like crucial, and lo and behold. But yeah, it's without giving any spoilers, it's a very, I hope, cathartic story for
Hmm.
not just black men, but just
Hmm.
readers of all colors. Just like
Hmm.
hold on to what makes you you. You know.
Yep. I also want to give shout out to Rob Guillory, who was on the show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, James O. Smith. I'm sure there'll be tons of other names you can
Sean
think of.
Martin, bro,
Oh,
one of my
Sean
friends.
Marnbrough. Come on.
Uh, like he's amazing. Uh, there's also
Oh, Afua Richardson.
yeah, Mark Bright, MD Bright, who
Mm.
passed away recently.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, yeah, like so many. Eric Battle, one of my really like longtime buddies.
Mm.
Love that guy. I would,
Hmm.
kill to work with him on something.
Kyle Baker.
How did we
Come on.
miss him out? I missed
Kyle
him out.
Baker. All right, so I've invented some black characters. I'll start briefly with the Green Point, which is the character that basically gives the Red Hook his superpowers for a little while there. And I never the Green Point is a riff on a neighborhood in Brooklyn, in this new Brooklyn area. And he has a paramour that he fights with called the Invisible Light, and he's black, but they're both demigods. And I've never written the origin of, were they people that
Oh,
became
interesting.
demigods?
Yeah,
Are
yeah.
they demigods like born that way? Like I've never written their story. I know that they were kind of like godlike versions of what I do with Billy Dawman and Jane Legit, in that they're addicted to conflict, or
Mhm.
they have a toxic relationship. But obviously, you fall in love for a reason too, or you're attracted to. So I've never written their story, except I wrote the end of their story. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So,
yeah.
and then the Invisible Light comes back later. I mean, he dies and passes on his altruism to the Red Hook, which forces the Red Hook to become a good guy. Um, so I think that, if I were to ever pursue more of the Red Hook, mythology, I'd like to tell their story.
Mm.
Uh,
I'd like
but
to read
otherwise,
that.
I don't even know if he's human or not. Like, he has human qualities, but yeah, that's a good question. The Red Hook's first love interest, is Ava Bloom, who was the possum, who was also a thief, not a super thief, but his partner in crime, as it were. And she, spoiler, dies in the first major Red Hook story arc I have, and then reawakens as a character named Warcry, which was basically my female OMAC, one man army corps,
Oh,
right?
whack.
Oh, like an OWAC, one woman army corps, but she becomes Warcry, and she shares a body, kind of like Firestorm,
Mhm.
with a black uh, gay kid named Rajak Allah. And Rajak Allah was me riffing on one of my favorite rapper of all time, Rakim Allah.
Mm.
Okay. And Allah means God, you know. And instead of doing Rakim, I did Rajak. And he was a really interesting character that I got to play around with. And another Red Hook character that they fight, which is another cosmic type of god, is a character called the Madness. And the
Hmm.
madness visually was based somewhat on a cross between Barry White and Bootsy Collins, in that he kind of had a Barry White kind of look, but then he had these rings around his hand that were kind of like Thanos in a way, you know, with
Yeah.
the gauntlet. But it was rings because Bootsy Collins has he keeps the funk in by having rings on every finger, and he lets it out with his bass guitar, the funk, you know. So, and I had fun with that character, but again, he may have been black adjacent. I don't think he's a black person, you know what I'm saying? And like he was kind of, you know, I was riffing on, you know, Barry White and Bootsy Collins a little bit. But so, like, I guess the two legit black characters were Ava Bloom and Ray Jack Allah. But the thing I didn't do, writing it from the straight white male perspective, was I didn't talk about black culture necessarily, which,
Mm.
you know, it's like trying to write white culture or Chinese culture. And, you know, I had many diverse characters in the Red Hook, you know, but it was always done from the point of view of Sam Broja, aka the Red Hook, you know. So unless something came up about being, you know, where you grew up and how you were, you know, I didn't really address that stuff because I don't think a lot of people sit around talking about being white or black or,
Right.
you know, sure that can come up,
I
but
kind of broached the subject in Golden Guard with Cadmus, where when he first shows up, um like he's watching like he's watching TV and stuff, and not even that, but like when he finds out how he died, how he was lynched, um he goes to Congress, like during a session of a joint session of Congress, and just says, how did you let this happen? Why are things not different? How is it that my death didn't change everything? How is it that I gave everything to this country and you guys did nothing to do anything, the ones that were left behind? Like this kind of righteous anger, and
right.
I wanted him to take that, one of the things I know about him in terms of where he is in the next story is he is seen as a like a not a political leader, but very much like a uh, Colin Kaepernick, or a
Mm,
I don't want to say Al Sharpton or Jesse Jackson, because they're really political, but more of a positive role model, I guess. Not kowtowing to what white supremacy in America looks like, whether it be racist white supremacy or just white privilege supremacy. Like just no, we're standing up for ourselves. We're taking you know we are going to reestablish a Black Wall Street at some point. That,
what it like a Muhammad Ali maybe?
yeah, I think that's a better
You know, famous for being a boxer and a sports person and yet had a political leanings, obviously, you
yeah.
know, like
I think the one thing that people don't realize is they see my name and they go, oh, that dude's Italian, and that's true. But I'm also Puerto Rican, and when you're Puerto Rican, you are as like you say, being a New Yorker makes you Jewish.
yeah,
Being Puerto Rican means you're in some ways Black adjacent. You
yep.
know, you're growing up in the same neighborhoods. You're influenced by the same pop culture. My sister is half Black. So
Hmm.
I was like, I've always been exposed to Black culture. And
Hmm.
one of the things I think that when I was writing Midnight Tiger for Ray, I think that's one of the things Ray was aware of, that I don't approach it as a, you know, Puerto Rican or Italian or white uh, appearing person. I approach it as somebody that is very familiar with the struggles of being Black in a
Hmm.
predominantly Black neighborhood, growing up and stuff. So I think that's when I think, you'd have to ask Ray specifically,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
I never want to approach a Black character as if I'm not familiar with their struggles. I'm very familiar with their struggles.
Hmm.
So I want to always keep that in mind. I don't want to sugarcoat it, and I kind of want to be genuine to the character, um, like genuine to the what I'm trying to represent.
Right,
Um,
right,
just
right.
for the sake of conversation, this is Cadmus right here,
Yep.
and there you
Yep.
go there.
Very cool. Very
So
cool. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, man. I and
one of my
again,
favorite one of my favorite characters I've created.
Yeah,
I created other black characters as well, like that haven't been slotted into stories and stuff. But and some, I actually created a character based on Ray Anthony Height himself,
mm,
called Catalyst, that I'm going to write for the Midnight Tiger anthology for him.
mm.
And it's based on Ray because Catalyst is a character who makes other people better around him, and that's how I look at
That's
Ray.
great.
So, so I'm
That's
looking forward to
awesome.
that.
I love that. I mean, I'm trying to figure out how that goes bad. Uh,
Oh, well, anything can go bad.
anything go bad. That's right. It's wow. Yeah, it's like milk that spoils. Anyway,
Yeah,
because milk brings life and then it can spoil.
let's just keep it at
But
water. No milk.
I all right. Well, I think we covered a lot, and
Yeah.
then we'll talk more next week. Hopefully with some guests
Mhm.
and get their perspective and point of view. I Black culture has been so important to my life. My favorite song is Planet Rock by Africa Mabata and the Soul Sonic Force. And then, Prince is my favorite, musician of all time, and singer-songwriter. So, and yeah, I don't know. The first record I ever bought was Rapper's Delight by, um, uh,
Sugar Hill Gang.
Sugar Hill Gang. I almost said the Pet Shop Boys.
No.
And Diana Ross, the theme from Mahogany was the
Mhm.
other one. So, but whatever.
I mean, we
You
all
know,
grew up with Michael Jackson. We all grew up with
yeah,
Prince. We grew up with the Commodores. I mean, music alone, like the
Lionel
amount of
Richie,
black music I've listened to in my life, where, yeah, I felt something when
hip
D'Angelo,
hop, Run
hip
DMC,
hop. We
Public
grew up,
Enemy.
we were born into New York in the beginnings of hip hop. So,
Yep.
a lot of times, like I was just saying, like, being New Yorkers, being Jewish, I think a lot of times, because of culture, there is a lot of uh, appreciation for Black culture. I
Hmm.
went to the Afro punk concert in Brooklyn a couple of years ago, and my God, I've never been more joyous and felt
Uh,
more like free
yep.
concert. My sister and I went, and we went with one of her friends. And at one point, they disappeared, and I was by myself. And it was just like, I've never felt more alive,
Hmm.
at a concert, like
Hmm.
by the music that they were playing and by the
Right.
performances. I got to see Bad Brains with Fishbone and
Hmm.
Color. Like, my God, like I
Hmm.
could have died that day. And then,
Hmm.
to close the night out, Ice Cube was there and Ren came out, and I realized that I've seen every member of NWA except for Eazy-E.
That's wild. That's
Like,
crazy.
I was so in heaven, like it was
Right.
really rapturous, and I can't. I have to thank my sister all the time, for just letting me come to that, and bringing me.
Oh, and I love funk and soul big time.
Yeah,
Like I've seen Al Green a bunch of times. I've seen Parliament Funkadelic. I've seen the Ohio Players. Uh, I love the culture and the music's my favorite. Uh, anyway, we're over.
do you know what my first concert was? The first concert I ever saw ever, Duran Duran. But do you know what my second one was?
What?
Public Enemy, Heavy D and the Boys, Kid and Play, En Vogue, and Chill Rob G, all on one card.
Wow.
Amazing.
Speaking of, is it Play that's with the tall hair
That's
or
Kid.
Kid? Kid.
That's Reed.
That's Calvin Reed's brother,
Yeah.
and he just had a heart transplant, I think, today.
Oh, good for her. Hopefully he's no.
Yeah, I think he's like 61 or something like that.
My
Anyway,
heart goes out to him.
my
Not
my
literally.
first concert was Diana Ross. My second concert was the Butthole Surfers. Explains everything right there.
Explains everything.
All right, man.
I think we did it. I think we solved world hunger.
There you once again.
Once
This is
again.
the 56th time we have solved world hunger.
I mean, we got to really get to the real issues at some point. Um, everybody's eating good on our backs. Thanks everybody for joining us. We appreciate it. Before we go, I always forget to do this. I want to remind everybody that if you go into our show notes, there are two links that are very important to supporting the show. We have a link for a T-shirt, an official Vito X Dino T-shirt that's got our our slogan in black, white on black. And we're also taking donations via, you can't see it on YouTube. It's a little too small there in the bottom right-hand corner, but there's a link down there if you want to donate to our show. We've gotten a few donations, but it's been a while since we've gotten, and we're not nearly close to our goal. So, we want to make sure that you guys are seeing that. So thank you very much. Thank you, Dean. I love you.
Thank you. Love you too, man.
And we will see you guys next week.